Happy Monday, degenerates. Welcome on back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. We are here for the first UFC Apex card of 2026. That is right. UFC Vegas 113 this week. We're breaking it all down for you right here on the card. We are fresh off back-to-back numbered events, big title fights, big number one contender spots, all action cards. It's been a little bit chaotic to start the year. I think some of these fights have bounced a little bit differently than people expect, but we did it. We survived it. And not only that, but we are rocking the baby blues. Your boy managed to win on Saturday. Now, plus 0.3 units. So it's a little one, but you know what we say, doesn't matter if you win by an inch or by a mile, a win is a win. So I will absolutely take it. I am 1-1 to start the year. We can work with that. We can get up from there. And you know, you guys, my wife has this thing about me that she likes to complain that I don't admit when I'm wrong, right? Like I always am right. I'm always the one who knows best, and I struggle to ever say, you know, I'm sorry, I'm wrong, that's my bad. I disagree with her. I actually think I'm pretty good at holding myself accountable, but there's a few people right now that I do owe an apology to, or at least give you guys your shout out and your credit here, because there have been a lot of people for the last 2-3 years or so, especially while I've been struggling with the gambling aspect of MMA, that have just continued to hammer on me that, Clint, if you just did less parlays, if you just did less Hail Marys, less of the long shot 3 and 4 leggers, that you'd have better results. Well, you know what, you guys, I'm going to tip my cap to you this week because I'm positive 0.35 units this week. And why is that? I only did the turkey hair transplant parlay. It was a very, very small sprinkle on an extremely long shot. And if I had done 1 or 2 of my regular 3-legger parlays with how insane this card was, I would have whiffed them both. This would have been at minimum a break-even week or probably a negative week rather than being a positive one. So congratulations, you guys. You were correct. Welcome into the show, everybody. We got George, Ray, Pro, what is going on, buddy? Happy to be here. The Grateful Dude, my man, Dream in the house. Appreciate you. We've got Jibhead, what's going on? We got Tyga, how are we doing? And I got to give this a right, let's get this bloody podcast in it, chum. James is going to kill me for that one. I'm sure I butchered the accent. What's going on, Dix Insider, TH, Louis, Mac Jr.? How about that in the house? My guy Ryan always tuning in from the Twitter platform. What's up, buddy? Do me a favor, you guys, hit the like button, share the show if you would. And yeah, I've got a fantastic guest for you here today. We're going to break down this entire card, top to bottom. Danny Betts in the house, Cong Clips, Streamline Gaming. What is going on, Kane? How's everybody doing in the house? Appreciate you guys. So I will tell you guys, maybe just a little bit of weird energy or just a little less than normal here today from your boy. Those of you who don't follow me on social media, you know, I know I mentioned on the pod a couple weeks ago that early January, my grandmother had passed away. This past weekend was her funeral. So I know some of you are my loyal viewers and love the Total Takedown and the props show. And of course, Friday, everybody loves the Undefeated post-weigh-in show. And I know you guys, there's a little bit of dust on your tinfoil caps this week because we didn't do it. That's because I was out of town. I had to travel. It was funeral weekend. I've got a bunch of family from Texas and some family from Virginia, and everyone just gathered in my hometown, and we were all together to do the funeral. So I was lifting tables and setting up flower arrangements and moving giant boxes of photos around and stuff like that. You know, kissing babies, getting cats out of trees, helping the old lady across the street, that kind of thing. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. It was a tough weekend. You know, I feel like I've done pretty well with the passing of my grandma to this point, but I also am very much an out of sight, out of mind kind of person. If I can pin my ears back and keep working, you know, bury myself into something, not the healthiest thing in the world, I'm aware, but I can manage, I can keep going. I can put my family and my daughter first. But going home this weekend really made it real, you know, seeing my aunts and my uncles, watching my mom cry, you know, those are the kinds of things that really kind of rip the wound open there fresh for me. So if there is a little bit of a lull in my energy this week, you guys, I apologize because I'm still just kind of going through it at the moment. I think I'm going to be okay though. You know me, I love my MMA and I love my gamble. So as we get through this card, I'm sure it will probably pick up. I can sense the vibe off myself. You know what I mean? As I'm sitting here staring at the camera, I'm like, it's not as good today, Clint. Like I need to get it together, buddy. Where's the shot? Like, I need to break out the fireball because I can tell I'm lagging just a little bit here. But one thing I do want to make mention is the reason I gamble is my grandmother. I come by it honestly, you guys. That woman knew her way around a penny slot machine. She ran off and eloped when she was 17 years old. She was a wild woman. From the day she was born, that woman was absolute insanity, and she loved harder than anybody I've ever met. We took in a bunch of strays. You guys probably don't know this. It's funny. It's normal to me, so I never think to mention it. But I've got a bag of candy right now that probably weighs about 3 pounds. It might be closer to 5. I'm not kidding. It's massive. And that's because my uncle Yoichiro from Japan brought a literal suitcase full of candy for the family. So we get all kinds of special little treats from Japan. I have a Japanese uncle, you guys. And again, it's normal for me. This is life for me. I don't think about it. So you guys probably had no idea, but I was the cool kid growing up because I had Japanese Pokemon cards. He would send me Pokemon cards for my birthday and Christmas and stuff like that straight from Japan. And I was the coolest kid on the block because of it. If you guys have ever seen the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, my family is exactly like that, except I tweak it just a little bit. It's My Big Fat Mormon Wedding. They're the kindest, insanest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. And that's what I grew up dealing with. So I'm not normal, and I'm fully aware of that. But that's what I've been dealing with. So man, we're gonna hit this thing running at this point. And if any other crazy family stories pop in my brain halfway through, we'll go ahead and bring. Yes, Tyga, we call it a family bush. It's not a family tree. It's a family bush because it's insane. It's the Brady Bunch situation. My grandma had like 3 kids. My grandpa had 3 kids. They got married. Yo was he was actually a foreign exchange student for a summer and then just never stopped coming home. So like he ended up being adopted later on in life because he was like a full-grown adult. They ended up adopting my uncle, who similar situation. He was just like a friend of the family. They end up adopting him as well because his home life was just awful, and he ended up kind of transplanting into the family. I literally have 3 adopted uncles in this family bush. And then they had 1 kid of their own. So like I have cousins galore, people that have like 1 or 2 close cousins. I've got like 40. I have no idea what it's like to have a small group of people at like a Christmas or something like that. My life was insane. One of these days we'll do like on an off week, we'll do like a story time episode, and I'll share some of the insanity that I grew up with. Without further ado, let's get into last week. Let's recap last week's card. And of course, let's bring in your guest, your favorite uncle, my favorite uncle, the UFC's stat daddy, Uncle Weezy. What's up, buddy? How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. How about you? I know that it's been a rough weekend for you, but we're back to business this week. We got a week off next week. So put our head down, get some work done, break down some fights for the people, and do your grandma proud. It's funny you mentioned My Big Fat Greek Wedding because that's actually my family. I'm 75% Greek, grew up in a Greek restaurant, all that stuff. So, a lot of those movies sometimes do ring true. And that's one that if you're Greek, that movie rings true in so many ways. And yeah, we've all got our own interesting family lives to talk about. And I can't wait to talk about mine more, on these shows and stuff like that, because it's fun. It's fun talking about where we come from, the people that shaped us, that got us to where we are right now. And rest in peace to your fine grandma, and let's do her proud by figuring out some ways to make some money on these fights this weekend.
Hell yeah, Wheezy. I appreciate it. She would love nothing less. You guys, before I started the podcast, I was playing poker, like semi-seriously, and I would get a call every weekend after I get back from the casino. How'd you do? Are you up? Are you down? Like, she wanted me to talk her through the gambling session that I had. I mean, she's been supporting me the whole way through. So the best I can do for her is definitely to go out there, whoop some ass, and steal some money from the bookies this week. UFC 325, Wheezy. I squeezed by. How'd you end up doing?
I squeezed by too, man. I took some shots. Some worked out, some didn't. The fight that I think really killed me was Tai Tuivasa versus Teixeira, because I knew Teixeira sucked. I knew that guy was a complete fraud. I knew he shouldn't be minus 400 against anybody in the UFC. And I knew that he'd be completely dead tired by the end of round one. I was just really hoping, I know it sounds stupid to say that Tai Tuivasa looked fat, because he always looks fat. He's never not looked fat. He probably looked like that a couple days after he was born, but he looked fat. I was kind of like hypnotized by the movement of his fat, and I couldn't believe that he had nothing left after round one. It was just rough. So I wound up losing a unit on the Tai Tuivasa money line. I wound up losing a unit on my 3-leg parlay, where the only leg that didn't hit was the under 1.5 in the Tuivasa Teixeira fight. We'd never seen Teixeira go over 3 or 4 minutes in a professional fight. So I kind of figured that one would end quickly, but it didn't. But I had some good hits. I had Benoit Saint Denis inside the distance. I hit on Con Offley's money line.
Ooh, what a call.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fight, the rounds 1 and 3 were close, but one thing that really bothers me about judging is, let's say you got a round 1 and it's a close round, and then in round 2, one of the fighters almost dies, right? In round 3, if the round is 50-50, give it to the guy that almost killed the guy in round 2. It's not hard. That way, the person that won the fight wins the fight, right? And I mean, I'll say that Con Offley was a good bet. Yijia was not a good bet, even though he almost got him out of there in the second round. He didn't look great in the first. He didn't look great in the third. Vegas needed Con Offley because Yijia's money line kind of got bet up hard during the last 24 hours. So, yeah, I mean, like, I was surprised by the decision, but I still felt like it was a good bet. And it's nice when you make a good bet and that coin flip kind of goes your way. But, definitely condolences to the Yijia bettors, because that's a rough way to lose, man. He didn't lose that fight. There's no way he lost that fight.
I'm with you. Anybody that took that shot
time, by the way, it's the second time.
Yeah.
The Korean Tiger, he beat that dude. He beat him all 3 rounds. And like, even the ref was trying to help out Jun Yong Lee in that fight. So this is the second time that Yijia has just been absolutely blasted in the ass by these judges, and I feel bad for him, man. I think he's 1-3 now because of that.
It's so crazy to me, Wheezy, because we always talk about, like, who does the UFC want to advance, right? We've seen so many decisions where it's bad for the person who they want to move up the chain. I thought that was Yijia. Like, if it's a close fight, they're never giving it to Con Offley. They want these road to UFC guys to make some positive steps. So, even though it was a close fight, I was sure it was going to go to Yijia. I was shocked. I was absolute. Dixon, timeout. You're in timeout for 5 minutes. The worst joke of MMA continues. I can't believe the longer Offley wins, the more this joke is going to be said. And I can't, Wheezy. I can't. So full, confession, you guys, like I said, I didn't get to watch a lot of this. I watched the second 2 rounds of the Yijia fight. So I saw him almost kill Khan Offley. I saw round 3 be close. I assumed he was going to win that. But then I had to turn my phone off because it's not like a wedding, Wheezy, where I can get away with watching fights on my phone. You know, the right. My mom would have
laugh at a funeral when you're doing that.
It would have been a double header, man, if I had been caught on my phone at the funeral. So I didn't get to tune back in until Benoit Saint-Denis in the co-main event. So I got to go back and rewatch basically this entire event. That's why I didn't have a whole lot of action. However, I can report that we have an early contender for worst read and worst bet of 2026, you guys. And that's Torres Finney. What was I even thinking? I mean, for him to get boxed up and dropped by pillow hands Jacob Malkoun, I don't know how you come back from that, Wheezy.
He blew out his knee in the first 20 seconds of the fight, though.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. He blew out his knee in the first 20 seconds of the fight. You could actually see the tendon move. He takes a bad step. And so I was doing the watch along with Brady this week, and we were watching the fight, and we were going, what the hell is Torres Finney doing? Because if you didn't know that he hurt his knee, you'd just be like, why is he just boxing? Why is he not wrestling? He blew out his knee, dude.
That makes a little bit more sense, at least.
Yeah, that's why he looks so awful, dude.
Because I saw clips of him just getting countered and dropped and beaten to a pulp. And I'm like, Malkoun doesn't do this to anybody. I mean, even if he did win a decision, there's no way he should be dropping guys. So glad to hear that at least a little bit. Just looking at some of the results, though, McLeaf winning by decision or submission in round 2 surprises me like a little bit. I thought that was probably going to go the full distance. Brundage getting finished in round 2 is, clockwork essentially. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure Cam Rouston was good going into that fight. Seeing the result, I'm still not sure he's any good coming out of it. I'll have to go back and actually watch and see what happened. But that was one that I wouldn't have been surprised if Cody actually sprung the upset against Cam. I'm not sure what to make of him at this point. Same thing with Elikana and Tafa with the sub in round 2. We know Tafa can't grapple. So the fight eventually hitting the mat and ending that way is crazy. Not crazy. It's obvious here. I was tempted on Mauricio Huffy. We see that's one I wish I had bet Mauricio Huffy. But very, very happy with Benoit Saint-Denis inside the distance. My biggest bet of the night, the thing that got me to profit. I'm just mad, you guys. If any of you listened to the preview, if anybody listened to my breakdown, I said that Benoit Saint-Denis to be champion at the end of the year at 20-1 was the move. And then I didn't pull the trigger, Wheezy. I did so bad on my futures bets last year that this year I decided I was going to kind of sit back and not make as many moves in the futures market. That's one I should have poked, especially knowing this fight was coming up and already booked at the time of recording. Like I knew it was a Benoit win, and that number has dipped from 20-1 to 9-1. Frankly, I still don't hate the juice on that right now, because if Islam is not coming back and if Topuria is not coming back, Benoit Saint-Denis beats everybody in the top 5 right now. Arman Tsarukyan is maybe the only guy that could give him a problem. The UFC doesn't want Arman anywhere near the title right now. I think Benoit Saint-Denis beats Justin Gaethje tomorrow. So I don't mind taking a shot on Benoit to be champ by the end of the year at 9-1. I'm considering it myself right now. It just all comes down to whether or not Topuria comes back, because that's the one guy who I think would really cause Benoit a problem, but I don't even know if he's going to fight this year. So I don't hate the 9-1. And then I do feel like an idiot, Wheezy, because Volkanovski having a really quick turnaround rematch against Diego Lopez, I took the shot, man. I did 1 unit on Diego at plus 130. And just what was I thinking? That's one of those ones where like rematches are never
thinking. What was Diego Lopez thinking? That's a better thing to say there. I mean, how do you go out there and think you're going to win minutes against this guy?
Yeah.
Like, you literally have to just run at him. You have to close the distance. You have to create scrambles. You got to jump knees, spinning shit, anything but sitting there thinking that you're going to go southpaw and that's just going to blow Volk's mind.
Yeah.
Like he'll never figure this out. Really, the guy that fucking beat Max Holloway pretty much most of the rounds that they fought. No, I mean, you're not going to outstrike this guy, and he tried to do that. So, I understand why I had Diego Lopez's finish only prop. So while I was sitting there saying, Diego, you are just so fucking stupid, I was simultaneously saying, at least I was smart for playing the finish only, because that was the only way he was going to win. He wasn't going to win a decision there.
Yeah. And that's, I thought he was going to be far more aggressive. I thought he was going to be coming forward. I thought he was going to be landing hands. That was the whole reason for the bet. I think Volkanovski's a little long in the tooth. He did get rocked and dropped once in that fight. So, like, it was all there, man. But at the end of the day, you know, when you get that kind of a number on an absolute legend, you probably should just be clicking and saying thank you for the free cash. And instead, I found an argument for the dog. So, I'll take my itsy bitsy little win, and we'll roll on over to this week and see what we can do with it. Are you ready to rock, Wheezy? Or did you have any closing comments on UFC 325?
I was just glad to make it out of there with a very small profit, especially, you know, with the Offley decision going my way. But yeah, I'm ready to move on to this one here.
Yeah, let's do it, man. This is a wild card. I can't wait to talk about it. So everybody, you know the drill. Uncle Wheezy, regular guest of the show. His information is in the description below. Please give him a follow. Of course, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're new, we do this every single week, and let's dig into it. First fight of the night. We've got Zombie Girl, Priscilla Cachoeira. She takes on Klaudia Syguła. And I love this fight, Wheezy. I love this fight. This is a banger to open up the night. Klaudia Syguła is 7-2. She's just 27 years old, but she's 1-1 in the UFC. She is coming off a win over Irina Alekseeva, and I'm very pissed off, Wheezy, because I can't watch that fight because Paramount is ass, and they don't have any of the old fights, even though that's the whole thing, is we're supposed to be able to watch everything in one place for one low price. They don't have jack as far as the backlog of fight cards goes. So I still have a UFC Fight Pass subscription. No big deal, right? You know, I'm a podcaster. That's fine. I can pay for one additional thing to look up old fights that are back in the lore of the UFC. Well, they now don't show the most recent fight for these people. They make sure you can't watch the last fight for these guys for God knows what reason. So I don't have access to the most recent fight most of these people have competed on because of the new setup, and I'm pissed about it. So I can't go back and rewatch that fight. Very irritating. Anyway, I wrote a letter. I wrote a strongly worded letter to Paramount Plus on Twitter. So Klaudia Syguła is one of these young up-and-comers, Wheezy, who has a very strong Instagram game. The UFC likes to push those kinds of people, and she does have a very good point striking style on the feet. She's got pretty fast hands. Sometimes I feel like she keeps them a little bit low. She is a little bit hittable, but she's training at ATT. She's got good volume. She doesn't have a ton of power, but she is pretty slick on the feet, and she's young, so you'd expect improvements. Now, both of her pro losses have been by finish, which in my opinion in women's MMA is probably kind of a bad thing. You don't really want to be seeing finish L's in women's MMA. Now, as time progresses, these women are getting more and more dangerous, younger and younger, which we love to see. Women's MMA is definitely catching up. But still, you don't want to see a bunch of KO losses and stuff like that. And she's been knocked out twice. In her last fight, by Melissa Mullins, no less. It was embarrassing. Like, Mullins took her down, flattened her out, and like pinned an arm down and then just kept punching, man. It was schoolyard bully type shit where she was just like, you can't move. I'm going to uncle you right now until the ref steps in. And that kind of is a little bit concerning for me. Just a bad look. You don't ever get the taste of those kinds of losses out of your mouth for these fighters, but she's 1-1. She looked better in her second fight, and they're giving her a massive step up here, in my opinion. Priscilla Cachoeira, the Zombie Girl, 13-7. She is 37 years old. You guys know my love of Zombie, right? She's cashed some big tickets for us here in the past. She's 1-3 in her last four, so she's kind of hit a bit of a rough patch, but frankly, Wheezy, the whole deal with her is that she can't grapple. Her entire career, she's never figured out how to grapple. I will give her a little bit of applause because her last couple fights, she has shown her first level takedown defense has gotten better. You know, it's a little tougher to take her down now than it used to be. She used to just fall over. Now they have to work for it. You know, even Miranda Maverick didn't get her out of there until round 3. Neither did Jasmine Jasudavicius, and she beat her to a bloody pulp in that fight. So it takes time to get her out of there now, even if you do go that grappling route. Now, Jocelyn Edwards just kind of smoked her in her last fight, but before that, she had definitely been putting up a little bit of defense in that area when compared to the usual. Now, if you're stuck standing with her on the feet, none of these women are doing well, Weezy. If you're stuck standing with her, she's generally winning those fights, or in the case, you got to go back to like 2019 or whatever, where she'll lose a decision to somebody like Luana Carolina. But for the most part, over the last 5 years, if you're standing with Zombie Girl, you don't want to be standing with Zombie Girl. She hits like a freaking truck, man. And that's something that's never changed. And she's got hate in her heart. She puts everything she's got into her offense, and she does not let off the gas pedal. I'm a little confused by this number, Wheezy. I have no reason whatsoever to believe that this chick is going to be able to out-grapple Priscilla Cachoeira for 15 minutes. Does Klaudia Syguła have a hidden submission game? She is a pretty striker. She wants a clean fight. She wants to go tit for tat, stand on the feet. Let's look at each other. Let me, just bask in the moment that I had just a second ago with that pretty crescent kick I threw. She doesn't want to brawl. She doesn't do good in a brawl. So I think this is a really, really bad fight for her. And she's not someone who's snatching necks left and right. Like, low-level women's MMA, early in her career, she's got a couple of arm bars, but she's not some grappling specialist. She's not a wrestler. I think this number's backwards, frankly, Wheezy. You've got a small favorite price, minus 140, minus 145 in Klaudia Syguła, plus 120 or so on Priscilla Cachoeira. And I can't help myself, Wheezy. I simply can't help myself. That's where we're starting things off, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Link Memorial Dog of the Week. Right out the gates, we are riding one final time with Zombie Girl, Priscilla Cachoeira. Now, we're doing smaller bets this year, better bankroll management. It's absolutely something that I'm focused on this year. So not going to be, a 2-unit play, a 3-unit play, nothing crazy like that. But I do think this is a spot where we're going to be standing more often than not in this fight. And I think at some point, Claudia's going to get clocked by Zombie Girl, and that'll swing the round. It could end in another finish. She's been knocked out before. Why not? I like Priscilla Cachoeira, Wheezy, and I apologize for being long-winded on this one. I am passionate about my low-level women's MMA. What do you think about this first fight on the card?
Yeah, it's wild that Klaudia Syguła actually was opened up on Bet Online at minus 300 here. Minus 300.
Jeez.
And just 2 fights removed from that Melissa Mullins fight. And Melissa Mullins proved in her fight after that she has no idea what she's doing. She might have some of the worst fight IQ that I've ever seen. She went and voluntarily struck with a woman that she had fought before and gotten her ass kicked before on the feet. She got one takedown the first time that she fought her and finished the fight like shortly thereafter, and then didn't wrestle in the second fight and willingly lost. So just because, and then Syguła lost to that girl, lost to somebody who might be mentally retarded, and just fighting because that's really what all you have the choice to be able to do. So yeah, laying juice on Klaudia Syguła, even though she's at American Top Team right now, it feels a little scary. But the problem with Priscilla Cachoeira is that she's not skilled anywhere. Her striking is just terrible. She keeps that right hand right up by her chin, and she just winds up and chucks it over and over and over again. There's no left hook. There's no kicks. There's no nothing. She's just trying to take your head off with her right hand. The problem is that she's really relied on her durability because she's so hittable, because she pressures forward so much, because she's so defensively irresponsible. She really relies on her durability. That's starting to go. She got knocked out with the first punch by Jocelyn Edwards. And then she's absolutely just gotten mauled in so many of these fights. Even like the Ji Young Kim fight that she won a long time ago. She got the shit beaten out of her in that fight. Both of them did. So I'm worried that the 37-year-old Cachoeira, who was never skilled to begin with and was really just a brawler, might not be able to last in brawls anymore. And then what's left then? So, but then again, you're fighting Klaudia Syguła, and I'm not exactly sure what she's even good at. Brady and I had a ton of fun. When you go through Klaudia Syguła's Tapology and you look at the opponents that she fought, like there's a picture of one of the girls that she fought was named Zoya Litvinenko. The picture that they took of this girl, they took when she was like 13 years old. She's in high school. She's got a backpack on, and she's standing on some bleachers while there's like a high school game going on somewhere in the Ukraine. This girl's 0-3. Like these are the girls that Klaudia Syguła beat. And then she beat Arina Alexeva.
Can we go one step further?
Yeah.
The fight that got this girl into the UFC was a mixed rules match.
Yes. Yeah.
She was not allowed to clinch or take down Klaudia Syguła. They actually took that as a viable win to give her a shot in the UFC. If they clinched for more than, I think it was 15 seconds, they broke them up and split them as though you would grappling, right? Like if you stall out in grappling and they make you both stand, they did that with clinching. She has been bubble wrapped to this point.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a very tricky fight. You know, I feel like this might be something I either just stay away from or maybe just playing under. But it looks like they might be onto it. I think the under 2.5 is plus 111. So the fight doesn't go is probably going to be juiced. You know, it's probably going to have a minus next to it. So, and you don't really want to be, you know, paying up for violence in women's fights, but I think Cachoeira is just as finishable as Syguła is here. So, and Segura's been finished in both of her. She's been finished in both of her pro losses, and we know what Cachoeira does. If she's gonna beat you, she's gonna beat you to a pulp and knock your head off. So maybe just fight doesn't go here, but this is sloppy. This is low level. This is dirty.
Fight does not go the distance is minus 130, you guys. And frankly, Weezy, I don't hate that one bit. Like, this is a spot where we could maybe double up on the bet. You go, fight doesn't go at minus 130, and then Priscilla Cachoeira money line, and you cash them both if she wins by knockout. If she somehow beats her to a pulp and makes it the distance and still wins, you break even. And then same thing if the fight goes under because she's broken and this younger fighter is able to clock her and put her down. You know, really a decision win for Syguła is the only way those two plays jointly lose. I don't quite hate it. That's maybe something I'll think about moving in on. Yeah, don't hate it. Don't hate it. All right, let's keep it rolling, you guys. Next fight up, we've got Muin Gafurov, and he's taking on Jakub Wikłacz. And Weezy, Jakub is a problem for me. His UFC debut, you guys, this kid is 17-3-2, which is a very weird record. 29 years old. He was the KSW bantamweight champion. This is Joanna Jędrzejczyk's star pupil, and he sent Patchy Mix packing to Rizvan. That fight, Weezy, was just an embarrassment for me. I still completely disagree with the decision. I thought it was extremely clear that Patchy won 2 rounds, but you know, it also is sad that Patchy has been dismissed to Rizvan the way that he has. He's been underperforming massively in the UFC. Even in this fight, though, I will say I was surprised by Jakub's ability to scramble. He was very fast. He was very aggressive. He was hard to hold down. You could tell when he got his hands going, Patchy wanted nothing to do with it. The plan was to be big and be a bully, take him down and sit on top of him. And he was hardly able to do that. Like I said, I think he squeezed out 2 rounds. I would have scored at 29-28 for Patchy, but obviously those rounds were close. And when you go control versus damage, the damage got the tip on this one because this kid just kept swinging. He's very good on his feet. He's extremely fast. He's got stabbing long range attacks. He's got a hard teep kick that he likes up the middle. He attacks the body constantly, and he's got really quick counter shots. I like his counter left hook, Weezy. His hands sometimes stay a little bit low, kind of similar to what I was saying about Syguła. He does walk into punches sometimes. He's been chin checked, Weezy. He's been chin checked a bunch, and it's another guy that, you know, that works out for you to a point. So eventually I think someone's going to be able to hit him hard enough that it makes a difference. And he's probably not just the end all be all, but until then, he's probably a Benoit Saint-Denis type of guy where he's going to just cook people. The constant pressure, the constant aggression, it's going to be a problem for the people he's fighting unless they can do something to stop this guy. Muin Gafurov, 20-6. He's 29 years old, 2-2 in the UFC so far. He is on a 2-fight win streak over Rinyat Nakamura and Kyung Ho Kang. Nakamura, not the most impressive win, but Kyung Ho Kang was on a pretty good streak, so that's not a bad name to have on your resume. Losses to Said Nurmagomedov, John Castaneda, very measured at boxing range. Frankly, low volume, Weezy. This guy likes to explode and wing gigantic hooks, and he doesn't set stuff up. It's one at a time power shots, not a lot of combos. I feel like he's very basic. He's well-rounded, but he's basic. I don't mean that as an insult. He's not flashy. He doesn't do anything crazy. His timing is good. He hits hard, but he really relies on his power. And if you're relying on your power with one-hitter quitter shots, but you're not really knocking people out at the UFC level, that's not going to be a great long-term strategy. I feel like he does punch his way into takedowns pretty well. He does have some offensive wrestling capabilities, which could prove useful in this fight. Patchy was able to put that to some success, so maybe that's a path to victory. The biggest concern I've got for Muin Gafurov, though, Weezy, is that hairy back patch that he has. I'm convinced that that's like, Achilles, the whole thing with Greek mythology. The reason that he had an Achilles heel was because they dipped him in the river Styx and they had to hold on to something so they didn't touch it. And that's why his heel is weak and the rest of his body is invulnerable. I think that back patch is where Muin Gafurov holds his power, and that's the reason he doesn't shave it. So this one's a bit rough for me, Weezy, because you've got a slight favorite price tag on Muin Gafurov. He's not a guy I like to want to lay chalk on. Jakub is still a little unproven at the UFC level, even in his fight that he won his last time out. I can poke holes in what he did and him even getting his hand raised at the end of it. This one's got split decision written all over it, man. I think this is going to be a tough fight. I think this is going to be a close fight. I wouldn't be shocked if Gafurov was able to grind this one out with some top time if he decides to wrestle. But if he strikes, I could see Jakub overwhelming him and kind of running away with this one. So not sure we see a finish. Lean dog or pass at this number. You guys, as kind of a staple, if I'm saying I think it's a split decision, then betting wise, it has to be dog or pass. Because if you are laying chalk, you don't want it to be a split decision, praying that you're getting a good day, right, from the judges, that Adelaide Bird is on your team when you're laying minus 155. It's just not a good strategy. So I'm going to lean dog or pass betting wise, and I think this is a very competitive fight.
Yeah, I kind of agree with the line being where it is. And it's tough to talk about this fight because how do you really get a great picture of who Jakub Wikłacz is, right? All the tape is either him fighting Patchy Mix or somebody named Sebastian Pribis 5 different times. Like literally, there's no other tape on this guy. You only get to watch him fight Sebastian Pribis. Like he's the only 135-pound dude in all of Poland. Like how did this happen? Like they didn't even want to make Figueiredo Moreno for the 4th time. How do you make Wikłacz Pribis 5 times? It doesn't make any sense at all. So I don't know what to think of this guy. And then he beat Patchy Mix, who just has had one of the strangest, what would you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Just the progression
all
of
from
his
grace.
story. It just, he went from this dominant outside the UFC fighter, and then he gets signed to the UFC with all this hype, and they give him the tune-up fight in Bautista, and that goes tits up, and people are like, why isn't he grappling? Why isn't he trying to wrestle this dude? And then they bring in a nobody. Like, this is Patchy Mix. Why are you signing somebody outside the UFC to fight him? And they bring in this guy, and he fights a very close fight with him. So I don't know what to think of it, because Gafurov, it's hard to kind of cap his fights too, because he's finish or bust. He's not a minute winner. The guy just looks to take your head off, and he mixes in the wrestling. He goes forward. The guy's extremely durable. He's 17-1 to the finish as a professional. Muin Gafurov. This guy's got 20 wins. He's finished 17 of them. Guy's a bantamweight. And like the guys that he didn't beat, like even on the regional scene, like he lost to John Lineker. He's been in there against guys like Castaneda, Said Nurmagomedov, caught him in that front choke. But outside of that, Gafurov hits really hard, and he can win minutes with the wrestling. He can win moments with the power in his hands. And I think that a lot of the things that he does just kind of looks good, but he's 17-1 to the finish, 3-5 to the decision. He lost the decision to that Canadian dude, Chad Anheliger, on Dana White's Contender Series a while back. So I don't know if we can really trust Gafurov's ability to win minutes with his wrestling at this level, but we can trust him to hit very hard, and we can trust him to kind of push his opponent into a war. And I think if he does that, I think he's potentially not just going to win the moments here, but potentially win the minutes too. I think Gafurov has fought the much better brand of competition as a professional. I just think he's got the much better resume, and I think he's more likely to win this fight on damage. So I'm leaning to the Gafurov side, but it's hard because I don't feel like I have a really good grip on who Wikłacz is going to be at this level? What type of a fighter is he? Because there's really only tape of him fighting 2 different opponents.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big question. I can't wait to see this fight. It'll be interesting. This is not one I have any intent of betting, Wheezy, just because I have no idea what to expect yet. So I still want to sit back and take some notes. I'm not rolling the dice on either of these guys. Laying chalk on Gafurov just is not it at this stage for me. So we'll go from there. What is up, my man, Barry Lang? Thank you very much for the donation, my friend. I hope you are well. Thank you for watching the show and appreciate you as always. Throwing the tips and donos here my way here on the show. Appreciate you, my man. If you have a question, of course, in front of the line there after the dono. My Steph in the chat says, Clint, I love you to death, but I got to know, how does it feel calling Patchy the greatest bantamweight and seeing him get cut? Steph, I think the best way I can describe it is sobering. I will say, working off the body of combat that we had to witness pre-UFC, I don't think I was insane for saying it. Now, wrong, obviously, but I think something has happened to Patchy, Wheezy. I think he's fallen off a cliff, you guys. This is not the Patchy mix that we were promised. This is not the Patchy mix that we were watching just take people's heads off in PFL and Bellator. And frankly, I think some of the guys who are in PFL and Bellator would do better in the UFC. Some of the guys that Patchy beat would do better in the UFC than Patchy did. He is not the same guy that he was. And, neither is his wife. He's Suarez is his wife. And the two of them were supposed to be the next big power couple of MMA. But, her wrestling is outdated and she's old and she's got some back issues. And I think the weight cutting might have taken its toll on him. Who knows if it was like a PED situation? I'm not throwing any accusations around, but like we've seen that before. Who was the guy, Wheezy, that won the PFL and then came over to the UFC and sucked ass?
Was it Phil Linz?
Phil Linz, Felipe Linz.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, Linz.
Thank you. I was just trying to look him up. I knew it was a P, but I couldn't get there for some reason. Felipe Linz. That dude nuked everybody in the PFL. The UFC signs him and they go, "Oh, you can't take that stuff." And he sucked ass. It took him getting on the right string of things that the UFC doesn't test for, and USADA leaving the UFC for him to get back to any semblance of any kind of a career under the UFC banner. So I really feel that this is not the same Patchy mix that led me to believe he was the greatest bantamweight. Whatever the reason is, I have no proof. I have no evidence. I just know he's not the same guy. So I look stupid. That's all it comes down to, is I look extremely foolish making that claim. So got to eat those. Sometimes you have a hot take and it blows up in your face, and we're used to that doing these types of shows. Let's move it along, you guys. Next up, we got Cong Wang, and she takes on Eduardo Ronda Mora. Too many Rondas, Wheezy. I say it every time. Too many Rondas. It's like pit bulls. We got to just, after a while, they need to have a maximum per province. And if you've got 2 pit bulls, the next guy that comes up saying my fight name's Pitbull, no, this guy's got to retire before you're allowed to have that fight name. I'm so sorry. Cong Wang is 33 years old and let me down massively against Gabriela Fernandez. I had a bundle on her the night that she lost that one. That was awful as a 9-1 favorite. She ends up getting choked out. Now she bounced back well. She's technically 3-1 in her 4 UFC fights, but Wheezy, it seems to me like she expected to walk through these girls. The way she fights, she's slinging fastballs. She wants to knock people out. She's finishing chicks outside the UFC, and she expected that to continue at the UFC level. They gave her a massive mulligan. After she loses to Fernandez, they went, you know what? Here's Bruna Brazil. You know what? Here's Ariane Lipski, right? Like, they're going to give you just a massive step down when it comes to the offensive capabilities of your opponents. And she also said, okay, so I can't throw so hard that I leave myself open with these girls. And so she's turned into a decision machine. And that's a little disappointing. I was hoping she would be able to finish these girls, but she's minding her P's and Q's. She's making sure she doesn't tire out. She's not allowing herself to overextend as much. It's working. She's winning, but it also is tough. We've seen her get clocked several times, Wheezy. She does get over aggressive. She's been wobbled a couple times. She's been connected on a couple of times. She's not the Valentina Shevchenko killer that we thought she was. She's not the women's Alex Pereira like we thought maybe she could be. So we got to put a little bit of a douse that fire out just a little bit. Eduardo Mora, 12-1, 31 years old. She is also on a 2-fight win streak. Similarly, she is 3-1 in her last 4. The one loss coming by way of split decision to Denise Gomes. Her first 2 fights in the UFC, guys, were awful, just terrible. She blew weight at 115 pounds in her first 2 fights back to back, and that's why she's fighting up at 125 pounds now. She got the biggest softball in UFC history. As you guys know, Montserrat Ruiz was her opponent in her UFC debut, and I got to be honest with you, Weezy, even in that fight, there were some massive questionable exchanges. Like, Ruiz just sucks. She's terrible, and if you have any set of skills, you beat her. She's a layup. And there were moments where Eduardo Mora couldn't get takedowns. There were moments where Eduardo Mora got reversed. And it's like, this shouldn't be happening. Like, you're twice this girl's size, and you apparently are supposed to have a championship caliber skill set, and she's giving you problems. Yes, she ended up getting the finish. So eventually she got it done, but the tape ages just horribly. And Denise Gomes is my girl. Zero questions there. But missing weight, being big, and then losing in that kind of a fight, not a good look. She gets my girl Veronica Hardy up at 125 pounds. And I've always told you guys, Veronica's too small. It's health stuff. Her health conditions, she cannot cut down to 115 pounds because of them. If she could, she would be a beast at 115 pounds. She's just so damn skilled. She's functioning at 125, but she's too small. So shockingly, Veronica out volumes Eduardo Mora, but because Mora landed the bigger eye-catching shots, she was able to win a decision in that fight. I was impressed with the fight over Lauren Murphy. Murphy is somebody who nobody just kind of bullies around in the UFC. She's very physical. She's strong, even though she's old. So that was definitely a tough fight to watch for me as a Lauren Murphy fan, but Eduardo Mora got it done. All in all, Weezy, I'm just kind of at the point where I'm not impressed. I know she's got a nice, shiny record on her. I know she's billed as being this dangerous Brazilian, and she's got a lot of finishes pre-UFC, but I have not been excited about her in the UFC. I have yet to see anything that gets me jumping up and down and rolling out of bed for her here. In fact, it's the red flags of getting outlanded by Veronica. It's the red flags of being reversed by Montserrat Ruiz. Now she's up at 125 pounds where her bully size advantage is kind of out the window. I don't know how well she's going to do. I don't know if that's going to translate at 125 pounds. So I'm going to lean towards Cong Wang. I do think we need to just kind of punch Cong Wang by decision pretty clearly the way that she's fighting these days. I don't know that you want to even entertain anything else, but minus 340, minus 380, minus 400 Cong Wang. I mean, we've seen her get clipped bad before, Weezy. We've seen her drop the ball in this exact situation already in the UFC. I can't lay that kind of a number on her, man. So, over the 2.5, fight goes the distance. Cong Wang even money or minus 110 by decision. That's kind of the way that I would look here if you were planning on playing it. I'm not planning on playing it. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not really impressed by either one of these ladies. Mora is somebody who's a dominant grappler, and you see her prior to the UFC being a very dominant grappler. But like you said, 115 pounds, she misses weight for every fight, and she's fighting in demo fight. So she's fighting waitresses and seamstresses and just beating the piss out of them. She gets up to the UFC, and even then, like Janaína Silva and Montserrat Ruiz are terrible. That was the Dana White Contender Series win. That was the first UFC win. She has a close fight with Denise Gomes that goes to split, and then wins over Hardy and Murphy. And I mean, I thought it was kind of funny how everybody was like, Cong Wang is like the second coming, like Chinese kickboxers just run UFC. Like, come on. It's like she got a win over, Valentina Shevchenko by split decision 15 years ago. And somehow that's, relevant now. And her wins came against Paula Luna and Victoria Leonardo. And then they made her a minus 1,000 favorite against Fernandez. And you know what? She was looking great in that fight. But Fernandez hits really hard, caught her once, and it clearly changed the fight. You could tell the shot that knocked her out, it was the shot before that got Cong Wang complete. She didn't know where she was. She started smiling in there, and then bam, it was over. She got dropped, and then she got finished. So Mora has some grappling upside here, in my opinion. But I also feel like she's a bit of a fraud in terms of she was so dominant with her grappling when she was fighting these nobodies outside the UFC. But now that she's had to go out there against fighters like Hardy and Murphy, you see that she can only kind of push the grappling in one of the 3 rounds. She doesn't really have the ability to be able to push that pace for a full 3 rounds. And I don't see how she's going to beat people like Kong Wang, who does have good striking. The reason that she's minus 1,000 over Fernandez is because, you don't necessarily have to be that well-rounded in women's MMA. If your striking is above average and your takedown defense is above average, guess what? You're probably going to win 75% of your fights, which is coincidentally exactly the percentage that Kong Wang has won at the UFC level. Stuff the takedowns, keep it on the feet, win the minutes and the moments on the feet. That's what she should do against Mora. But her grappling really hasn't been tested by anybody. Leonardo can't really grapple. Gabriela Fernandez is a striker. She's a kickboxer. Bruna Brasil, is a straw weight. She's not even a flyweight. And then Ariane De Silva just is not a grappler at all. She's a pure striker. So I feel like Mora could have some grappling success here. Can we count on her to do that and keep the distance striking exchanges kind of close? Maybe make this a split decision. Maybe make this a close fight. Potentially, yeah. I think the money line side is Mora because I think she hits hard and maybe she can win a moment. Like when that Veronica Hardy round 1, you go back and you watch that round. Eduardo Mora won that round 5 seconds into the round. 5 seconds into the round, she lands a clean right hand on Hardy, and it's the only significant strike of the round that did any damage. So she won on one big strike in round 1, and then in round 2, she got a takedown and a bunch of control time. So she won that fight basically by getting one takedown in one round and one clean strike in one of the other rounds. So, I guess Mora could be live here, but there's no way I would lay minus 300 on Kong Wang. No way. I don't think she's very good, Clint.
That's where I'm sitting, Weezy. I'm completely with you. I've been dabbling with the spreads a little bit recently.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I said, it was a rough bet having Torres Finney plus 3.5. If I had bet the straight money line, I would have actually lost less because it would have been 1 unit at plus 130 as opposed to 1.5 units at the plus 3.5 spread line. But on the flip side of that, my Song Yadong plus 3.5 cashed on the first card of the year as opposed to taking his money line because he lost that 29-28. This could be a spot where maybe you dabble in that plus 3.5 or probably plus 5.5 for Eduardo Mora in this spot. You may not need. I'm sure it goes the full 25 minutes. Maybe we don't get the full on upset, but if she grapples, why couldn't she win one of these rounds? So I could see a spread bet coming into play here, especially if it's a reasonable number and you're getting that plus 3.5 or plus 5.5.
Let's see where that's at, because Bet Online opened up all their props, and right now they've got finish only for Mora is plus 115. Let's see, they've got the spread. Mora's plus 120 on the plus 3.5 point handicap.
Yeah, see, I don't mind that, man. Getting plus money on the handicap is like my favorite way to play those spreads because you're still getting some extra juice. You're not laying anything. You're getting a little bit of something for your argument. Yeah. No, not a 25-minute fight. Not a 25-minute fight. It's only a 15-minute fight. So the suffering will be short, you guys. All right. Let's keep it rolling, man. Next up, this one should be a little bit more entertaining. Said Nurmagomedov takes on Javid Basharat, the lesser of the Bash Bros on the card here tonight, Weezy. I talked about Javid the last time he fought, and I kind of likened it to like a football team or a hockey team. When these fighters lose their O, you don't know what you're going to get, right? It's one of two ways. It's either double down, I got this, back to the drawing board, patch up the holes, and you're on a rocket ship. You learned a lesson, right? You learn the things you need to know to be able to succeed as an MMA fighter. Or is your confidence gone? Do you collapse? Do you make mistakes? Do you take a fight way too quickly and turn around and come right on back because you got to get that taste out of your mouth? There's a lot of negatives that can happen. And Javid apparently was on the negative side of this coin here. He's facing back-to-back losses after getting the vet lesson from Amin Zahabi. He comes back and he gets smoked by Ricky Simón in the next fight. And I mean, just a heat-seeking missile. Ricky put this man in a body bag. So now you've got not one loss, but two. And you've got your first finish loss by a guy who's usually a decision machine. How do you come back mentally from that? I worry about where Javid Basharat is in his head coming into this fight. Now, we know he's got a great frame. We know he's tall and long. He uses that frame well. Good timing, good spatial awareness, good kicks, very good control of the distance between him and his opponent, except for, the Ricky fight. He pulls out of range, usually very well, very good offensive grappler, but another guy who's just not a finisher, you guys. Another guy who grinds. He'll put a pace on you. He'll slow you down. He'll wrestle you to death. That's what this guy does. And he's taking on Said Nurmagomedov, who's 18-5, 33 years old, 1-3 in his last 4. And I'm finally being vindicated here a little bit with this guy getting exposed in his last couple of fights. Took way too long, but it's finally happening. He's facing back-to-back losses right now against Bryce Mitchell and Vinicius Oliveira, somebody who we'll touch on a little bit later on in tonight's card. And I remember when I broke down his fight with Bryce Mitchell, because Weezy, I said, I was like, look, I'm just not going to get this fight right. Like, I can't get Said right to save my ass. Every time I think this guy's going to get beat, he pulls off an upset, and it's always those damn front chokes. That's all this guy does. He's a good striker. He's tall, he's lanky, but he knows those front chokes. So as soon as you do try to get your grappling going, he's going to wrap his long ass arms around your neck, and he will send you to the graveyard. And Bryce Mitchell, I thought, might get caught in a front choke in that fight. Sure enough, I was right. I was wrong. And he survived, and he grappled his way to a 15-minute decision victory. But Said is just in this really weird space for me, Weezy, where it's hard for me to pick him to win a fight, especially against a grappler. Because it's like, okay, so does he win the fight by picking and poking on the feet for 15 minutes? And then when the level change comes, is he going to be put on his back and gas out and be too tired to get up? We've seen that, like, the weight cuts are taking a toll on this guy. He's so big for the weight class. He can get stuck down on bottom. So if you can get past that front choke, you can neutralize this guy. But if you don't get past that front choke, you're a dead man. So it's a really hard cap, because I feel like I'm just throwing darts every time Said fights. It's just whether or not he hits that front choke. And I'm kind of here with AJ here. I kind of feel like Basharat's a fraud, man. I kind of feel like Said can strike with this kid. And then I don't know if Javid's going to be safe grappling with Said. I bet Javid probably has the better gas tank at this stage of their careers, but we've got a 3-year difference. This is not like a 33-year-old and a 26-year-old. It's 33 and 30. So it's pretty easy with these two being similarly in age. And I think Javid could get caught in the front choke. I think Javid will be stuck striking with this guy, and it'll be close. So plus 105, Said Nurmagomedov, minus 125, Javid Basharat. Do you try to catch the falling knife, Weezy? Is this the buy low where you say, I'm going to take the low number of minus 125 on Javid because I have faith that he'll bounce back and he'll get on track after this? Or do you bury the kid? Do you take the plus money on the Nurmagomedov and say, you know what, he's broken, he was never that good to begin with, and I'm going to continue fading him? I kind of lean towards burying. What's your move here, man? What are you doing?
Man, I love that you use the term catch a falling knife. That was a term we used on the floor of the Chicago Stock Exchange all the time back in the day when I used to work there between 1998 and 2002. Those were some interesting trading years, my friend. We never try to catch a falling knife. You let that knife hit the ground, and then once it hits the ground, it bounces around, and then it settles down, then you could pick it up. Don't try to catch falling knives, whether you're trading stocks or whether you're betting on MMA. It's a bad thing. I got the best bet for this fight here. It's a really simple bet. You're not going to lose, and you might win. Said Nurmagomedov, finish-only prop. Ooh. That's what Said does well, right? He can absolutely knock you out on the feet, and we just saw Javid come off a very scary knockout loss. If you shoot a sloppy shot against Said Nurmagomedov, he wraps your neck up. Javid Basharat couldn't finish a glass of water after sundown on Ramadan. Okay? He's not going to finish anybody at this level. He's pillow fist. He's a lay and pray wrestler. He's not finishing Said Nurmagomedov. So I feel like that's probably the way to play it. And then the way I'm also looking at it is if Saeed's got minus 200 on the finish only prop, and in my opinion, he should be minus 300, minus 400 actually. Then why would he be plus 110 on the money line? Because it's not like Javid Basharat is like some lockdown minute winner. Saeed is a guy who can win moments that could actually carry rounds here. So I think Saeed's the side, and I think that finish only prop is really one of the safer bets that you can make this week. This guy is just not going to finish anybody at this level, much less Saeed Nurmagomedov. And Saeed's just way more dangerous, both on the feet and in the grappling exchanges when it comes to who has the finish upside in this fight. So, yeah, I think it's the moment winning of Saeed. And if Javid gets the win here, Javid Basharat by decision is plus 105, and his money line is minus 130.
How sad is that?
They're telling you all you need to know. I mean, like, you might as well just take that Saeed Nurmagomedov finish only prop. I'm probably going to throw 2 units on that right now.
Okay. Wheezy, that is a sharp take and a beautiful prop number. I love it. That sounds fantastic. I will probably have to tail you on that one post haste because it sounds like it's a good low risk play to make this week. All right, guys. Next up, we've got Bruna Brazil and we've got Ketlen Souza going at it here in the UFC. We are back to good old women's MMA. Bruna Brazil is the special one, Wheezy, and she sure is special. She sure is. I don't know what to make of this chick. 11-5-1. She's 32 years old. Now she's with the Fighting Nerds. She's 3-3 in the UFC, alternating wins and losses for those of you keeping score, coming off of a win. So I'm just, guys, when the Vikings are playing well and we need the field goal to win, my wife runs into the bathroom and locks the door because she thinks it's lucky that she's not in the room when they kick the ball. So a little bit of superstition built in over here. I'm going to lean towards Bruna losing this fight just based on tradition, Wheezy, because she is alternating at a very, very impressive pace here. So she makes her UFC debut off Contender. She loses to my girl, Denise Gomes. She takes out the trash against Shauna Bannon. She loses to the ever-present and awesome Loma Luke Bunme. She makes some adjustments, and she fights smart and beats the Molly McCann. Then she loses to Cong Wang, who is far more skilled. And then she breaks all of our hearts by beating Ming-Chi. That's the one I was a little disappointed with, Wheezy. Ming-Chi was such a viral sensation with her head kick that she landed. I was grossly disappointed to see her lose to somebody like Bruna Brazil. Very, very upsetting. But since she's been with the Fighting Nerds, like I mentioned in the Molly McCann fight, she's been fighting smarter, Wheezy. She has been taking her time. Bruna Brazil has a really bad gas tank, you guys. She's been knocked out 3 times. I don't think she's got that great of a chin either, and it's worse when she's tired. So this chick can slow down. She can gas out. She can be hurt. She is not very good. And at 32 years old, even with the Fighting Nerds, that's just not going to get better. That's just not going to improve rapidly over time, I wouldn't think. The UFC is having her beating super low-level opposition. When she moves up and fights people that are halfway decent, she loses. Because if she can't control exactly the time and space the way that she needs to, she gets too tired to finish the fight strong. Now, we'll see if she can, step up in this kind of a spot and hold it together for a full 15 minutes. But she used to be a front-loaded finisher. She would gas out, and then she would get finished herself when she didn't get that kill. So now she's trying to extend the cardio a little bit and become a decision winner. We'll see how that works against Ketlen Souza, man. 15-6, 30 years old. She's 2-3 in the UFC, but she's coming off back-to-back split decision losses. There's a universe where she could be 4-1 right now. So she's maybe a little bit better than that record would show, fighting some very tough competition, some very elite level competition, like my girl Angie Hill. Tough last couple of opponents. She clubbed and subbed Yasmin Horegi. Massive upset at the Sphere when she pulled that choke off. That was incredible to watch, but she hits hard. She's a little undersized. I feel like she fights a little bit like Francisco Prado. She likes to step into range. She likes to roll with hooks. She looks for big power shots, big clinch knees. Man, she just gets in the pocket and bangs. And she is a Brazilian lesbian with a neck tattoo, guys. So she is the one who's breaking the system, though. She's not the one who's cashing tickets for us left and right like my girl Denise Gomes. She's the one who's bringing the ROI on the Brazilian neck tattoo down. So it's a little bit disappointing. She did get tapped with a knee bar in her UFC debut, if you guys recall. And in that short fight against Yasmin Jauregui, she got knocked over a couple of times with big shots. They were just kind of car crashing. She's hittable. She can be rocked. So I'm not sure what to make of her, but she is tough. She is durable. And I've seen her go a full 15 minutes with people like Pierre Rodriguez and Angie Hill. Frankly, Weezy, I think that's enough for me. I'm more than happy to fade Bruna Brazil. Ketlen Souza, minus 165 favorite. It is favorite or pass for me. The split decisions are a little bit concerning, but I want to fade the cardio and the chin of Bruna Brazil at all costs. So a little bit of chalk, totally fine for me. Real quick, before I kick it to you, Weezy, I'm going to shout out my boy Nonstop Philly here. Says, my heart is with you and your family, Clint. Glad your spirits are still high. Question for you, Weezy. Who are your favorite current UFC fighters? Okay, let Weezy do the breakdown, and then we will circle back to that question. I thought your comment was about this particular breakdown. We'll get you Nonstop. Thank you very much, my friend, for the kind words, for the donation, for the love, for the support, and everything. And we will hit that right after this. Weezy, what do you make of Bruna Brazil and Ketlen Souza?
So, I think that Souza is the much better option here because you've got somebody in Souza that, in my opinion, hits a lot harder than Bruna Brazil. In addition to that, Brazil's so chinny. I mean, when you're in women's MMA and you've been knocked out not once, not twice, but 3 times, it's very hard to back you because you if you can't take a punch in the women's divisions, then that means you're in this terrifying place where you could be winning, like Sebastian Soleil, 14 minutes of beautifully winning, and you get caught once, and the fight is over. And with somebody like Ketlen that we've seen just absolutely one punch knock out Yasmin Jauregui, you got to believe that she's probably the one that's going to be doing more damage in this fight. Now, can Bruna Brazil mix in the wrestling, get some takedowns, win some minutes on top? Absolutely. I think that's possible. She's a well-rounded fighter. She's well coached. She, over there at Fighting Nerds, they're probably gonna have a pretty good game plan for her. But Ketlen Souza, she's been in 5 rounds a few times on the regional scene. She's 5-2 to the decision, and she's actually been finished 4 times in her own right. So I could see an under being a really sneaky bet here, just because we've seen Ketlen Souza finished in 4 of her 6 losses. We've seen Bruna Brazil be finished in 3 of her 5 losses. So that's 7 of 9. I mean, that's point. 7 of 11 still. But for women's fight, 7 of 11 is a lot because fight doesn't go to decision. I don't know where it's at, but the over-under right now, talking minus 350 for the over 2.5. You're getting plus 280 for the under 2.5. My model likes that. I think it's a solid play this week because we've seen both of these fighters be finished in their fights. But are they going to be finishers at this level? Do you see Bruna Brazil going out here and getting finishes at the UFC level? Probably not. And Souza, I think Souza has a lot more finish upside in this fight. Let's see where her finish only prop is at, because I just don't see any finish upside for Bruna Brazil. But for Ketlen Souza, who we've seen get a finish at this level, I think it's a little bit more likely for her. And they've got Souza at minus 160 on that finish only prop. So I think it's right that she should be the favorite in this fight.
Okay. I don't mind it one bit, Weezy. And the under is probably a decent look. Like you said, both these women have been susceptible to it. And with the cardio issues, if Brazil comes out with a fast start, we have seen her opponent caught early as well. Quick question from my guy Salt Dirt. What do you think of roller dogs? I'm not a big gas station hot dog guy. So, I don't usually eat the roller dogs. I assume you're not talking about hot dog warmers. Salt, you got to give me a little more detail. I do love a good hot dog. I'm a basic ketchup kind of guy. I don't do a whole lot of extra with it. Let's circle back to my boy, Nonstop Philly again. Thank you for the love and support, my friend. Who are your current favorite UFC fighters? For me, right now, it's still Brandon Moreno. I love the guy. I love his attitude. I love that he's such a happy guy. And then he can flip that switch. And then once he's in the cage killing people, he's an absolute murderer when that door closes. And that's huge for me. I kind of like Gene Silva just because of how much of a wild man he is. I don't know if I can call him a favorite fighter. For me, I got to tell you guys, I have a bit of a high bar when it comes to favorite fighter because I'm a personality guy. For me, if I'm going to be like a real big fan of you, you've also kind of got to be like a good person. So as much as like, you know, someone could be the biggest finisher the world's ever seen, but like John Jones isn't immediately like scratch him off the list because he's such a dick outside the cage. He'll never be a favorite fighter for me. So even if I like their in-cage product, I have to like their out-of-cage product as well. So I'd say, you know, Brandon Moreno absolutely is the one for me at the moment that has yet to get bucked. But a guy like Paddy Pimblett, actually, I did it for the memes early on in his career, Wheezy, but then like his advocating for like men's mental health and stuff like that, he's actually a good guy. So I'm kind of coming around on Paddy. He's actually a guy I like and want to cheer for at this stage of my life as well. So guys like that always hit the soft spot for me. What about you?
So Fluffy Hernandez for me, I love watching anybody that just fights with that all offense and no defense style. So Fluffy Hernandez and Benoit Saint Denis are two of my, and then Charles Oliveira, nonstop Philly, just mentioned Charles Oliveira. I love fighters that fight with that style. I love fighters that are going out there trying to kill you. And if they don't succeed in that endeavor, that they're going to get carried out on a stretcher. So I've never seen a boring Benoit Saint Denis fight. I've never seen a boring Anthony Hernandez fight. I've never seen a boring Charles Oliveira fight. Those are guys that I just will tune into every single time. And people like John Silva, you know, that guy, like if there wasn't this sport, he'd be in a jail somewhere.
Yes,
you know,
exactly.
like that guy. I mean, like he would just be like, he would have like his favorite soccer team would lose and he'd go on an absolute rampage and probably kill 3 people. So thank God he has fighting, you know, so that he can let out that emotion in the cage. And it's a pleasure to watch people that probably wouldn't have anything in life if they didn't have MMA go out there and do it at the level that they do it at. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, that's a great call, man. I completely agree with you. But that's where, like I said, I'm picky because like Natalia Silva, she misses out on the favorite fighter category because her fights are boring as shit. Like, I love her. I appreciate the skill. I love how smiley and kind she is outside the cage. And she's a beast. She's a badass in the cage, but her fights are boring. So it's like, I can't give her the favorite fighter moniker. Benoit Saint Denis is a great call out. And you know what? One that's flying a bit under the radar because he's relatively new, Kyoji Horiguchi. He's on the short list right now, Wheezy. He's absolutely becoming a favorite fighter of mine because I kind of forgot about him when he left the UFC. I'm not going to lie, but he was an incredible talent when he was here. He's super happy. Like his call out of Pantoja, we'll talk about him a little later, but like calling out his own teammate for the title because he just doesn't give a fuck. And then the way he fights, he's a fun fighter. He's a fun dude. I think Kyoji Horiguchi is going to go on that list for me as well.
Yeah, and if he changes his name, like I'm hearing that he might, Horiguchi Main, I think it's just going to be the next step for him, and we could actually see him get gold around his waist. So looking forward to talking about that test.
Love to see it. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll talk about that one tonight for sure. And Salt says release the Bulgarian files. How many times do you think Dana White is mentioned in the Bulgarian files?
Yeah, it'll be that supposed phone call that he made before the fight. Hey, what's going on, Isaac? And Isaac's like, don't worry about it. I'm going to kill this guy. Oh, I believe you. Okay, yeah, we'll just, So poor Alexander Hernandez now, because of Bulgarian, he got his fight called off when he said that he was good to go. So who knows what happened there?
Getting caught. We're gonna have to subpoena the records, man. I need to hear what happened on that phone call before Alexander Hernandez got his fight pulled. All right. Next fight, you guys. We've got Alexander the Great White Morono, Alex the Great White Morono, taking on Daniil Donchenko. You know, it's a bit of a bummer, man. Alex Moreno is one of those guys that I've always rooted for. He's a little bit low on the athleticism end. He's big on the heart end. He's kind of dogged out fights a couple of times and just gets in there with the best of them, Wheezy. And that's the kind of guy I always love and appreciate. He went on a nice little run where he was underappreciated and he was cashing tickets left and right for people. Those days have come to an end, and it's come to an end in a big way, man. We're talking, 18-wheeler up to speed crashing into a family of 4 in an SUV type of coming to an end here. He's on a 3-fight losing streak right now. tough loss, split decision, good fight with Daniil Rodriguez, and then getting smoked by Carlos Leal. His whole thing, he's a volume machine. He has a BJJ black belt. He refuses to grapple or wrestle. If you force him into grappling exchanges, he will take your neck. But unless you give it to him on a silver platter, that part of his game just doesn't exist. He wants to get in there and throw hands, man. He wants to box it out with you. Losing to Nico Price in 2024, that's the death knell, Weezy. Like, that's just awful in this day and age. And he's always struggled with power punchers. So as soon as they booked the Carlos Leal fight, like, I knew they were just signing his death warrant at that point. So he's a dog. I want to see him do well, but he's long in the tooth. He's old. The durability is fading. And now he's not able to put it together enough to win these 15-minute decisions. The end is nigh. Daniil Donchenko, 12-2, 24 years old. He won his UFC debut via impressive first-round knockout over Rodrigo Cinzando. He's coming off The Ultimate Fighter. And I'll be honest with you, Weezy, I think I sold that guy a little bit short. I think I was on Rodrigo coming into that fight, if memory serves correctly. I can't remember if I bet it or if I just picked it, but I was not planning on this kid being the one who got his hand raised. His competition level is ass, Weezy. I mean, just brutal, awful competition level outside the UFC. And I think I held that against him maybe a little bit too strongly and didn't pay attention to his own skill set. I'm not sure what to make of this kid. I'm still not entirely sure who Daniil Donchenko is at this point, although he is absolutely the problem for Alex, and that is he is a KO artist, man. 8 wins by knockout. He's got 3 in the first and 5 in the second, so he is a front-loaded early finisher. His only losses have come by way of decision, so you can tire this guy out, drag him deep, and that's what Alex is going to have to do. At this point, I'm going to bet on the younger guy, the harder-hitting guy, versus the guy who's coming off a brutal KO loss, who's struggled with this exact kind of opponent in the past. It's Donchenko or nothing for me.
Yeah, me too. He's 11 years younger than Alex Morono. And look, Alex Morono's got 37 professional fights, 23 of them at the UFC level. And you're talking 270 minutes of UFC octagon time, 4.5 hours. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy that Alex Morono is absorbing about 5 significant strikes per minute. You multiply that by 270 minutes, and that's 1,350 significant strikes that this guy has absorbed in the last 10 years or so. And there comes that point. Like, we've got a few of them on this card. Somebody like Cachoeira, somebody like Morono, somebody like Marc-André Barriault. You're durable and you can exist in those wars until the durability gets switched off. And once it does, once you're used to fighting in a way where you are counting on that durability to carry you through, to absorb big shots and take those big shots so that you can land one heavier, he's not going to land the heavier shots against Daniil Donchenko. Daniil's younger. He's got 5-round experience on the regional scene, being the NYSA FC champion for the welterweight division over there. So this guy, he's a pretty experienced young fighter, 150 minutes of cage time, 14 professional fights at only 24 years of age. And he did that 6-week stretch in the Ultimate Fighter House. That's like a crash course on pro MMA where you're getting work in with some of the best coaches and previous fighters that the UFC has to offer. So I think Daniil Donchenko's career is going straight up. And with Morono, you got a guy who's, he's a Fury FC play-by-play announcer. He's not really at a place where, he hasn't even fought in 11 months. So I just think that, like, the body, the durability, that point in your career where you've taken too much damage that you're not going to make improvements anymore. We can't count on Alex to, like, go out there and use his Brazilian jiu-jitsu unless it's kind of like in a scramble or something like that, or he's looking to wrap up that guillotine. It's just never been anything that he does. He averages 0.3 takedowns per 15 minutes. And this guy came into the UFC, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. He was thought of as a grappler, but he prefers to strike. And he's going to be striking with a kid that's 11 years younger than him, that ran through the fucking Ultimate Fighter House. He ran through Cezinando in the debut. And I thought there was a lot of value on Cezinando. Cezinando was training over with DC on his wrestling. You know, he had went through the house too. But then all of a sudden, like, he runs into Donchenko. Donchenko ran through him, dude, one round. He hurt him so many times, so bad, had his face completely busted up, and all it took was about 3.5 minutes. So, yeah, I think Daniil Donchenko is going to run through Morono. This is just two guys at two completely different points in their MMA careers right now.
Yeah, can't argue with that, man. I would assume it's probably going to be another KO, but we will have to see what ends up happening. Dixon says, Clint, I'm never trusting Alex Morono ever again after that stunt he pulled versus my Facebook friends, Nico Price. Oh, man. Dixon, I mean, I got to tell you, shout out my boy Mark, my father-in-law's best friend. He cashed a ticket on Nico Price that night. You know, we go out to the bar, Wheezy, and the boys are always asking me for knowledge, and I've been burying them the last 2 years because, you know, I have not been doing well gambling. Actually, they've done better than me over the course of the past 2 years because the predictions are usually pretty good, and they just bet every fight, right? So I'm losing on my selective bets, and they're over here rapid firing on stuff. They usually end up doing better than I do. He just kind of looked at me and was like, I'm going to bet that guy. You know, just the eye test, right? You look at Nico Price and you look at Moreno and you know nothing about fights. And he went, I'm betting that guy. And he cashed the ticket. I was like, what the fuck? Like, that's the kind of thing that's never supposed to happen. It worked. God bless him. He's the only guy I know that cashed out that night. It was a rough night for me sitting there holding a Morono ticket being like, what the hell just happened? So good on anybody who cashed on Nico Price for the final time because, yeah, gravy train's over. Next fight, you guys, we've got an interesting one. Dustin Jacoby takes on Julius Walker. Dustin Jacoby filling in here on short notice because Julius Walker's opponent, he was supposed to fight Salty Balls. Salty Baliev fell out and he gets a veteran instead.
Go get me a juice box.
You know who you're talking to?
I'm talking to the juice box guy.
You're crazy.
I'm not crazy. I'm just thirsty.
Why don't you go to hell?
No, you go to hell. While you're there, why don't you grab me a juice box?
Shout out friend of the show, Julius Walker. He's been a guest on the pod, and he's already agreed you guys to victory lap and come on back after the win this weekend. So I am beyond pumped for this one, Weezy. Julius was one of the guys who I had circled outside the UFC that I was very excited about getting the call up to the big show. I assumed he was going to get on Contenders. I assumed he'd have a little bit of a slower path, but has it been trial by fire for my boy Julius? My goodness. So he's 7-1. He's 26 years old, and he makes his UFC debut on short notice against Alonzo Menafield. This guy is the peak fighting champion. He comes from Spectation Sports. Shout out Spectation Sports. We'll talk about them in a minute. That was a tough fight against Alonzo Menafield, but I got to tell you, he showed all the stuff that you can't teach in that fight, Wheezy. He came out hard. He knew the game plan. He tried to get Alonzo down, and when it failed, he toughed it out. You know, it was a close fight, and he could have been finished multiple times that night. Alonzo Menafield hit him with some crushing shots, and he just kept walking forward. He made it a fight, and even when Alonzo got tired, Julius did his best to turn the fight around, and unfortunately was just too tired at that point to get the takedowns he desperately needed to win it. So split decision loss in his debut against a veteran, a guy who keeps finding ways to win. I don't really hold that against him too much. Now, in his second fight, he got Rafael Sequeira, who is the softball of all softballs in this weight class. And I got to tell you, I love my boy Juice Box. All right. I love Julius Walker. He was just pounding his chest, letting us all know round 1 KO, boys. Round 1 KO, boys. Like, he knew the assignments, and he just couldn't quite find that shot, Wheezy. So he comes out like a bat out of hell in that fight, and he really went for it. And when you're not able to quite get that KO, guys, that's exhausting. So he's putting everything he's got into these punches, swinging for the fence. He's looking for that highlight reel, and he just whiffed a couple times. He didn't quite find the button. He couldn't quite get that finish. He forced it. He didn't let it come to him. He forced it. And because of that, he got tired. So he ended up having to go into damage control mode, hit some takedowns. He's the guy that beat Rafael Sequeira by decision. And that is a rough look. I will fully, acquiesce to you guys that that's a little bit of a rough look. But I think you can justify it with the way he came out for that fight. If he had played that normally, if he had hit the takedowns first and then gone to the ground and pound the way we've seen him do on his regional tape for years, I have no doubt in my mind that he knocks out or subs Rafael Sequeira in that fight, but he was too tired to do it by the time he realized he needed to shift the game plan a little bit. So he gets Uran Salty Balls, and that fight gets canceled. Unfortunately, I was looking forward to that one, but now we get Dustin Jacoby, and this is arguably a much, much tougher fight, Wheezy. Dustin Jacoby, 21, 9-1. He's 37 years old. He's a bit long in the tooth, but we all know the story at this point. Kickboxer turned MMA fighter. Everyone's always looking to take this guy down. He's got some good takedown defense. He's got some good cardio. His timing is really good. His spatial awareness is really good, and old boy still got it. His last couple of fights, he's smoked a couple of people. Fraud checked Bruno Lopes, fraud checked Vitor Petrino, fraud checked Kinney Nizuchukwu. I mean, he was having a tough time there in that run, Wheezy, with losses to Khalil and Azamat and Amenafield, and he still got it done against guys like Kennedy and Vitor Petrino. He's got good gas tank. Tough to control. This is a really, really tough fight for my boy Juicebox, Wheezy. But I will tell you, I think he's got a path to victory, and that path is grappling. And I think he knows that. If you guys have done any of your Instagram stalking that you needed to do pre-UFC Vegas 113, Juicebox is in the best shape of his life, you guys. He's got a 12-pack on him. He is not coming in here the way he has his last two fights. He is nowhere near what he looked like for his UFC debut. This man is in shape. He is peaking when he needs to physically, and I cannot wait to see what full power Juicebox can do, because what he did on the regional scene was he was relentless. He cheese grates people alongside the fence. He takes them down, he wears them out, and then he beats them up on the ground once they get tired. He has a very relentless offensive grappling game, and that's really what's led him to this UFC opportunity. So yeah, it's a tough step up, man. It's a tough call to get here for Dustin Jacoby, but Dustin's been out hustled before. Dustin's been taken down before. Dustin's been knocked out before. This is a fight where it's a bad stylistic matchup, I feel like, for Dustin Jacoby, but a massive step up in caliber and competition for Julius Walker. So pick your poison. Are you going to roll with the young up-and-comer, take the shot on the young dog who's got a clear path to victory, or go with the veteran who's kind of streaking at this point right now? I think violence makes sense in this fight, Wheezy, just because Jacoby has been finishing these guys. He's been fraud checking people who are not on his level. So I could see the under being a good value play, because whether he wins or loses, I think Dustin probably forces this fight into a finish in one way or the other. Julius looks like he's plus 160 at BetOnline. The favorite, Dustin Jacoby, is right about minus 200, minus 195. I thought that would be wider, Wheezy, if I'm being honest with you. I kind of thought we would get a bigger number on Julius Walker. You guys know I'm rolling with Juicebox, right? That's my boy. That's my boy. He's coming on the pod, win, lose, or draw after this fight. We're going to watch his career with intensity moving forward. So I'm not picking against my man, Julius Walker. I'm absolutely biased in this spot. I will let you know that. But I'm also not just because he likes me, but very seriously invested in this guy's career. I think he's going to be very, very, very good given some time. This is a tough roll of the dice, man. Can he step up to the plate? I hope he gets this win, because that would turn some serious heads right now if Julius shows everybody what's up against Dustin Jacoby on Saturday. What do you make of this one, Weezy?
Yeah, it's a big fight for Julius, and it's short notice for both guys, because Dustin Jacoby was scheduled to fight Jimmy Crute in Australia this last week. That fight got called off after he flew out there with Cody Brundage, who was also fighting from Factory X. So he cornered Brundage and then took this fight. So Jacoby was supposed to fight Crute, Walker was supposed to fight Uran, and now they're fighting each other in Vegas. So the problem is that Dustin now, was probably cutting weight to make 205, finds out that fight's canceled, doesn't really have a fight, and then who knows how long it was between the cancellation of the Crute fight and then him signing on to fight this one here. And then now after Sunday, now he's got to fly all the way back to the United States. There's going to be some jet lag associated with that.
That's a fair point.
And, and he's fighting Julius Walker, who he's going to have to really worry about the grappling here, because if this fight stays standing, Julius has no chance. He's only 26 years old. He's new to the sport. he was a basketball player before he was an MMA guy. So the guy's a phenomenal athlete, and he's got a very high ceiling in the division because of that athletic ability and because that he's already kind of carved out an identity for himself as a fighter. He's a pressure guy who is a grappler first, and he's going to grind on you. And that kind of style works in this weight class if you have the kind of conditioning to push that pace for the full 15 minutes. The thing is that Dustin Jacoby, 31 professional fights, 14 UFC fights. In those 14 UFC fights, Clint, he spent 83% of his UFC octagon time at distance striking range, even though his opponents are attempting more than the divisional average amount of takedowns against him. So Dustin Jacoby is a guy who his takedown defense is only listed at 61%, but nobody's having trouble or nobody's having a lot of success winning extended stretches of minutes in the grappling exchanges and clinch exchanges against Dustin Jacoby. In addition, Dustin does very well in the clinch. He's outstruck his opponent 64-44 in significant clinch strikes. So the level of the striking is not even close. Dustin is going to absolutely pick apart Julius Walker at distance striking range. Julius does not have UFC level striking yet. It's just not there. It's going to take time. And there's the type of opponents where you can kind of close that gap by training for a few weeks, not against Dustin. So Julius has got to do something that we really haven't seen anybody do to Dustin yet. Even Iwan Kutalaba, who got a knockdown and 8 takedowns in round 1 against Dustin Jacoby, was not able to keep that pace up, and he lost rounds 2 and 3, and that fight wound up being a draw, right? So Julius, this is going to be a very difficult fight for him. I think Dustin Jacoby's a rightful favorite here because of the complete separation in the level of the striking here, the separation in the level of experience, UFC experience too, and strength of schedule. Dustin has just done a really good job of keeping his fight standing. And if that trend continues and he continues to spend 83% of his UFC octagon time at distance striking range, this fight's not going to be close.
I can understand. I got to root my boy home. I hope he can get these takedowns. He's in crazy shape. And he was the one who I feel like is more prepared for his fight coming into this one, Weezy. We'll see. Like you said, they're both technically short notice. I think the travel is a wonderful point going against Dustin Jacoby. But I think my favorite comment in all of this is our guy Sox fan in the chat saying that Dustin's been hanging out with Brundage. Give me the juice box. Guilt by association, man. It's over.
Yeah, and it's the worst thing is that he's been hanging out with him in Australia. That's the real problem, is that, that's a long flight home from there. So about almost 24 hours probably going from Sydney to Vegas.
That sounds awful. No, thank you.
It does.
All right, guys, real quick, shout out our sponsor, Spectation Sports. I say sponsor, they're not our sponsor. My bad. I'm so used to saying that. I'm programmed. However, I do like to work with Spectation Sports, and they have awesome MMA coming up. In fact, they are in my backyard this weekend. Rough 66 is right here in good old Phoenix, Arizona. It's a doubleheader, though. FAC 33 is going on this week as well, you guys. If you want some awesome MMA action, if UFC weekends are just not enough, if you want actions on Fridays, if you need something before or after the UFC fights, get in. There's going to be more. This place is growing. We've got contenders. We've got guys like Julius Walker coming to the UFC from these organizations. It's going to be great for tape study. And if you're just a degenerate who needs some more action, or you're an MMA fan who wants to watch more fights, Spectation Sports is where it's at. Get on the rocket ship before it takes off, you guys. Use code DIEHARD for 20% off when you sign up. I'm back with my boy Weezy, and we are talking UFC Vegas 113. So make sure you support my guy. Make sure you hit the like button, get subscribed, and let's keep it rolling. Next up, Gene Matsumoto and Farid Basharat, the good Bash Bro, Weezy. I believe Farid is the good Bash Bro. I mean, at this point, he's still the one who's got his record intact, so kind of got to force it that way, right? For a while there, I thought Javid was maybe the better of the two. I've come around to thinking Farid is, and now the records kind of play out that way. Gene Matsumoto, though, no slouch. 17-1-0. This kid is 26 years old, and Weezy, this kid is good. He started off his UFC career with back-to-back wins over Dan Argueta and Brad Katona. He looked impressive in both of them, extremely well-rounded, good wrestling, dangerous jiu-jitsu, good striking. Like, everything about this kid really looks like it checks out. He got a massive step up in competition. He took a short notice shot against Rob Font, and he lost a split decision. I mean, that's one of those ones where your stock doesn't really fall, right? Like, you're unprepared, you're brand new to the UFC, you're 26 years old, and they give you a savvy old veteran like Rob Font, and you took him to a split. You didn't get your ass beat. You didn't get thrown out with the bathwater, right? Like, it was a good fight. So I think his stock went up from that. Now, arguably the stock went down a little bit in his next fight against Miles Johns. I feel like he should have done a little bit better in that fight, but went to a second split decision. Weezy, if you look at like MMA decisions, if you want to see what the actual like pulse of the people was on that one, it was 29-28 Gene Matsumoto across the board, like 11-1 on non-UFC judges' scorecards. There was one rando who thought that Miles Johns won that fight. So it wasn't as close, I think, as the split decision would say. I felt like it was a pretty clear 29-28 for Gene Matsumoto when I watched that fight the first time. So I'm going to take a little bit of sting off that split with Miles Johns. He is a tough veteran. He's another guy that's hard to put away. He's another guy who fixed his gas tank problems, as we know. So that's not a bad win, I would say, especially coming off of a big loss. So this is a fight where the UFC, in my opinion, doesn't care who wins, right? You've got two studs, and they're going, we don't know what to do with either of you, and just chucking the two of them into the cage together. We rarely get these fights, you guys. These come along once every 3 to 6 months, right? We do not get fights like this. Usually they like their boys and they protect them on their way up the chain. These guys are both getting near that contender level status, and the UFC wants to know what's what. Farid Basharat, just like his brother, long, rangy, good grappler, well-rounded, decision machine with a little bit of finishing upside. If you can tire your opponent out, he can get people out of there with subs. He can latch onto something in round 3. If you make a mistake, he'll make you pay for it, but he stays very much within himself. I feel like Gene Matsumoto is going to be the more offensive, and Farid is going to probably try to look to counter and things of that nature. Tough fight to call, Wheezy. One that, I'm going to go back to my old saying. This is a coin I don't know that I need to flip. Like, I like Gene Matsumoto better. I think I'll pick him to win this fight, but I'm a little shocked by the line. You've got Farid, who's a minus 300 right now, plus 240, plus 250 on Gene Matsumoto. So I guess it's a coin that might be worth flipping, because if you're getting that kind of a plus money number on it, the spread could be an interesting play on this one as well, because I don't think Farid is just going to 30-27 this guy. I think Gene is very dangerous and might be being overlooked just a little bit here in this spot. So I don't know. Maybe a dog play for me, Wheezy, now that I'm thinking about it. What about you?
I just found a really strange line, right? So Farid Basharat minus 275 on the money line here. But Farid Basharat's finish-only prop is minus 350. And I'm trying to figure out who thinks that Farid Basharat's going to finish anybody. He's a harmless crotch sniffer. No power on the feet. Lay and pray, top game, with no ground and pound. This guy lands less than 1.2 clinch and ground strikes per minute, which means that if you strip out all the distance striking exchanges, every minute that passes by, he lands just over one significant strike every 60 seconds. So Farid Basharat's not finishing anyone. And because Gene Matsumoto fights with such relentless pressure and volume, and he's very durable, he's definitely the kind of guy that's willing to kind of eat one to take one. I could see Farid Basharat potentially shooting some shitty shots here and winding up in Matsumoto's guillotine. You don't want to be in there. So I think Matsumoto by submission, Matsumoto finish only prop is plus 275. You're not going to lose money on that. Farid Basharat is not finishing anybody. So I feel like Farid Basharat by decision at plus 100, that's a phenomenal look, considering his money line is minus 275 and he has no finish upside. So if you want to play the Farid side, just play him to win by decision. And if you want to play that Matsumoto side, you can play the finish only and just hope that maybe he does find a guillotine. Maybe he does land a big shot that causes that sloppy shot that could finish with the guillotine, or maybe he uses the guillotine to sweep, gets into top position, lands some big shots. I think Matsumoto's a lot more relentless here, while we know what Basharat's good at. He's very smart, very well coached, and very well rounded, and he knows when to use what weapons, and he knows how to not take damage. So I think that Basharat by decision, and then you can also play the Matsumoto finish only prop. I think you can play both of them and make some money.
Yeah, I think that makes a whole lot of sense there, Wheezy. Do you think the Bash Bros go 1-1 or 2-0 on either side of the spectrum on Saturday? Do you think they go 2-0, 0-2, or 1-1?
Oh boy, I mean, that's a good question, because I think that Saeed's the better play at plus 110 over Javid at minus 130. So I think 1-1. I think Saeed could win the fight even by decision, just by winning the bigger moments in rounds. He might get really close on a submission attempt. He might land a big spinning back kick that like outdoes the volume that Javid throws. So yeah, I mean, I'm thinking 1-1, just because Farid, as harmless as he is, as little finish upside as he brings, this guy is such an efficient minute winner, and you love backing that kind of style because they don't make a lot of mistakes. They don't have you wanting to put your own head through the wall when you're saying to like Diego Lopez, like, go after him. Why aren't you going after him? If you watch Melissa Mullins versus Lesniakova, you're like, Melissa, wrestle. You don't have to worry about that with Farid. Farid will shoot 30 takedowns in this fight if the striking isn't going his way.
For sure. I might have to roll the dice on Gene. Or maybe I'll look at that spread. Like I said, because I think you're onto something. I feel like this fight probably goes the full 15. I think we can get one round out of Gene Matsumoto. So the judges' spread may be something I find intriguing on this one. We'll see. We'll see. All right, guys. Absolute banger up next. The fight that will save the card is Michał Oleksiejczuk and Marc-André Barriault. Wheezy, I think there's a lot of fights on this card that have a chance to be anti-violence. I feel like the anti-violence parlay may be the one that hits, right? For this card, we could get a lot of decision props lined up together and just knock them down. This is the fight that's going to get everybody's butts out of their seats. This is the fight that's going to hype everybody up. Michał Lord Oleksiejczuk, I don't care what his nickname is. He will always be Lord to me. He's a fighting nerd now, Wheezy. 30 years old, still somehow just coming into his prime. He's got a lot of UFC experience. He's on a 2-fight win streak, big knockouts over Cedric Dumas and Gerald Meerschaert. This guy has a problem with his wrestling. He's either smoking you with nonstop pressure and big punishing shots in round one. Every single win he's got is a round 1 KO. Or he's losing by round 2 sub. Every once in a while, he'll lose a decision, right? The Sharabullet Magomedov fight where Shara's, harmless basically, so he wasn't able to get a finish. That happens from time to time, but more often than not, he's getting caught in an armbar when he can't quite get you out of there. So he is a trial by fire type of fighter. I do think he's getting better. The fight against Gerald Meerschaert, he did have moments where he looked like he was a little bit more restrained. He was a little bit more intelligent. He was a little bit more cautious in those positions where Gerald had an opportunity to land some kind of a sub. I think he might actually be improving being at the Fighting Nerds. His opponent, Marc-André Barriault, 17-10, 35 years old. The Power Bar, one of the best nicknames in the game. He is struggling. He is 1-4 in his last 5. I always say that backwards. He's coming off a decision loss also to Sharabullet Magomedov. And again, like I said, Sharabullet, just a guy that couldn't hurt a fly at this point. So he's decisionating these guys who should be easy enough to knock out. This guy got knocked out by Dustin Stolfus, Wheezy. Like, what? You're telling me Shara can't knock this guy out, but Dustin was able to go ahead and do that? He is a pressure fighter. He gets in your face. He cooks you. It's volume, 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 volume. The difference is Oleksiejczuk has heart-stopping power. And Michał Oleksiejczuk is fighting a guy who doesn't have that kind of punishing force coming back at him. Marc-André Barriault has gas. He's got cardio. That's where his offense comes into play. He wins decisions. He'll get late finishes sometimes, but he's not a round 1 or bust type of guy the way Michał is. So what are you taking? Back in the day, if we rewind 5 years and Marc-André Barriault could take a punch, maybe he wins this fight. But I think he's broken, Wheezy. I feel like his chin is shot at this point. I don't think he's going to be able to car crash with Oleksiejczuk. And I don't know that he's a good enough wrestler at this stage of the game to be able to take down Oleksiejczuk and keep him there. This is a bit of an IQ test, I feel like. The UFC is going, okay, Michał, we've given you a chance. We've let you work on this whole grappling thing. Here's a guy who kind of can grapple. Let's see if you can get by him. So I feel like Oleksiejczuk has to win this fight. He should win this fight. Marc-André Barriault's only win in his last 5 fights dating back to 2023 is the corpse of Bruno Silva, the guy that didn't want to step into the cage and retired immediately after, and spent a week in the hospital after that fight because he just didn't have it and was trying to pay some bills. Like, that's the only guy Marc-André can beat at this point. This is Michal's smash spot, in my opinion. I expect he continues the train of round 1 KOs.
Yeah, I think Oleksiejczuk's going to shave his ass. I don't think it's going to be even close here. The one thing that I think that gets by the betting public with Oleksiejczuk is everybody knows what he's good at. Everybody knows what he's bad at. But what he never gets any credit for is the fact that he's incredibly durable. Mm-hmm. And not only does he have a massive power advantage over Marc-André Barriault, that power advantage is huge, but the durability advantage is even bigger. So how does he win this fight? Because Barriault is not somebody that's going to go out there and take you down. He just doesn't do that. I mean, let me look at the stats because obviously I have them. Barriault averages over a 16-fight UFC sample size in 160 minutes, 0.4 takedowns per fight per 15 minutes. So not even a 50% chance that he's going to get one takedown in a fight. So Marc-André Barriault's grappling upside is limited. Another thing that Oleksiejczuk never gets any credit for is if you wind up underneath, or if you get Oleksiejczuk on top of you, he's got some of the best ground and pound in the entire division. So if you try to take this guy down and you make a mistake and wind up on your back, it's not just like you're going to get hit a couple times. You're probably going to get finished. We've seen Oleksiejczuk finish Chidi Njokuani with ground and pound. We've seen him finish Cody Brundage with ground and pound. If this guy gets on top of you, it's going to be a serious problem. So I just don't know how Barriault wins this fight. His chin is dust. He could clinch it with Oleksiejczuk, but let me look at Oleksiejczuk's clinch striking numbers. Yeah, that's the one place that I think Barriault can get the job done because Oleksiejczuk has been outlanded 58-24 in significant strikes in the clinch over 17 UFC fights. So that's one place where there's been a little bit of a weakness. But, the forward pressure of Oleksiejczuk, the power of Oleksiejczuk, his cardio is underrated and his durability is bordering on elite. So I don't like this matchup at all for Marc-André Barriault this week unless he can just wear on Oleksiejczuk in the clinch for 3 consecutive rounds, in which case it's going to be a really boring fight. But I think that this is Oleksiejczuk, probably first round knockout.
All right. We're kind of lining up there on that one, man. I can't wait for this fight. It should be fun as long as it lasts. Next up, you guys, Jailton Almeida takes on Rizvan Kuniev. Rizvan Kuniev may be one of the funniest stories heading into the UFC, Wheezy. One of the most insane situations where the UFC just could not give a fuck. This guy is 13-3-1, 33 years old, and he's a 2 times Dana White's Contender Series competitor. After failing on Dana White's Contender Series, he gets signed by the PFL instead of going to the UFC. You know what? I apologize. I think I got my timeline out here. I think they made him fight on Dana White's Contender Series after the PFL. Yeah. So he fights on Contender, he goes to PFL, and then they make him fight on Contender again. Dude fought Renan Ferreira, right? You guys know Renan Ferreira is the guy that was supposed to go toe-to-toe with
Ngannou.
Thank you. He had moments in that fight that, frankly, Wheezy, were stunning. Ferreira was able to hit some takedowns on Kuniev. Ferreira was able to sweep Kuniev a couple of times. And the whole thing is Kuniev is built at this. He's billed as this giant, massive Russian grappler, right? Big, hairy wrestling machine. Mm-hmm. And here is the Brazilian who doesn't know jack about ground anything in PFL. That's the whole way anybody's ever beaten him. he's able to take this guy down. He's able to hit sweeps of his own, stuff like that. It was brutal. He gets a no contest in that fight because he pops massively for everything. I mean, we're talking every steroid under the sun. So he beats their boy, pops for everything. PFL says, thank you, we're done. And the UFC says, come on back, baby. Come on back. But they make him fight on Dana White's Contender Series again. They don't even bring him back to the UFC. They make him fight on Contender Series again. It's awful. Surprisingly, a decent kicker for how big the guy is. He randomly throws like spinning heel kicks and shit like that in fights sometimes. He's a grinder, very strong, likes to pin you up against the cage, good underhooks. But Weezy, this guy's a cheater. This guy is a cheater through his core. He grabs the fence more than anybody I've ever seen. Top, bottom, taking you down, getting up. It does not matter. This guy will grab the fence and use every advantage he possibly can. And also every steroid in the book. He's on anything that he can get by the organization that he's fighting for. So we know this guy is an absolute cheater. But frankly, Weezy, if they're not going to punish him, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. We might as well try to make some money on the guy if that's how he's going to fight, right? I think there's going to be spots where he ends up winning fights that he probably shouldn't because he gets away with some of these egregious things that he does. His UFC debut was right into the deep end. He fought Curtis Razor Blades, and that's a tough ask for anybody, especially somebody claiming they want to be a wrestler at the UFC. I did take the stab on him, man, at plus 200. That fight went to a split. I thought there was a real argument that Rizvan won that fight. I was very happy with my plus 200 bet in that spot because it was close. His boxing is pretty good, and he does have some decent heavyweight pop in his hands. So now he gets kind of the step down on Jailton Almeida. And this is interesting because Curtis Blades and Jailton have a history together, Weezy. I cashed a big ticket on Curtis Blades because I thought, you know what? A former 205er grappler whose cardio over power at heavyweight, I'm not sure it's going to fly against a true heavyweight grappler, someone who can wrestle at heavyweight, somebody who weighs 265 plus pounds on fight night. So I cashed a ticket on Curtis Blades against Jailton Almeida, and I'm extremely tempted to just run that back here and say, you know what? Rizvan has the wrestling that he can hang with Jailton Almeida. He will be bigger than Jailton Almeida. He will be stronger than Jailton Almeida. He will cheat, and I know he's on the good stuff. So if there's anybody who can kind of do what Blades did and drag Almeida into round two, tire him out just enough to put some hands on him, I think it's a guy like Rizvan Kuniev. I've never been all the way sold on Jailton Almeida's grappling attack at heavyweight. He's 34, you guys. He's not a spring chicken. He's not some young up-and-comer. Now he's lost to Curtis Blades and Alexander Volkov. So as the pool gets a little deeper here at heavyweight, his gimmick ain't working quite as well. You know, and then you've got that bad look against Derek Lewis where he basically had to take a break and just sit on his chest because it took everything he had to get the big man down a couple times. I think Rizvan might be the guy who can pull the upset here in this spot. Weezy, slight lean dogger pass here for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely live here because I don't know what the hell Jailton Almeida is doing. You know, like that performance against Alexander Volkov was pathetic. A lot of people thought that he won that fight. I don't think he won that fight. He didn't land any significant strikes at all. Like, so he's got to learn to start being a little bit more aggressive when he gets on top of his opponents because it's almost like this guy thinks he's not going to be able to take these guys down again, you know, if they were to get back up. But of course he is. This guy, Jailton Almeida, has 10 UFC fights, 76 minutes of UFC octagon time, and he's only spent 10% of that UFC octagon time at distance striking range. He's petrified of striking. And because he's petrified of striking, he forces his opponents to fight his fight. He just goes after them and makes them grapple. He's a better wrestler than them. He's got better Brazilian jiu-jitsu than them. He's faster than them, and he's a better athlete than them. So it just works for him. He's winning 91% of the control time positions in his fights. But the problem is that he's had these fights against Blades and Volkov where he's getting takedowns, he's getting top time, but he's not doing any damage with it. He's afraid to let his hands go because he knows if he lets his hands go, they're going to be able to get back up. But you got to hurt them. At some point, if you're going to stop being afraid of your opponent, you have to do some damage against them. So Jailton needs to get to a real camp. He needs to get the hell out of Galpao de Luta, which is not a great camp. It's where him and Mora are right now languishing and refusing to actually get good enough to where they could actually be wearing the belt in their division, because they have that kind of upside. Almeida has that kind of upside. Eduardo Mora has power and suffocating grappling. If she brought in a little bit of cardio and learned how to wrestle a little bit, she could be a very big problem in the women's 125-pound division. But, I lost a lot of money on Almeida when I bet him against Blades. I lost the Volkov loss. Like that, I lost on the straight money line, and I had Almeida in a money line parlay that was like something like plus 450 for one unit. So him refusing to throw ground and pound in the Volkov fight cost me something like 9 or 10 units with the swing, because he didn't get that decision. And I lost money on Kuniev because I thought he beat Curtis Blades. I had that same plus 200 ticket. That screwed me over too. It was that
felt good, man. Going to decision, I felt good about plus 200. Yeah. We deserved better.
I did too. When sometimes the decisions go your way, sometimes they don't. In this case with Almeida and Kuniev, I've been on the wrong side of a couple of different decisions there, and it's because Jailton just doesn't try to do damage. He's got to get more confident in his striking, and he's got to get more confident in his ability to do damage once he gets into top position. If he were to do those two things, I really think he should be champion of the division. I don't think there's anybody in the division that is going to stop Jailton Almeida's grappling. I don't know who that is. Who in the heavyweight division is going to be able to stuff this guy's takedowns and be able to grapple with him if he's landing damage when he gets into top position? I don't think it's anybody. So, like, Jailton Almeida might wind up looking like minus 400 here. He might. But he also might lay and pray and do no damage, and you might have laid minus 150 on him, going to those judges' scorecards being like, oh, are they going to give Kuniev this one now that I got money on Almeida? So I could see this fight playing out really close. Like, Rizvan Kuniev is a legit heavyweight, and Jailton Almeida is an elite heavyweight with horrible coaching and a really bad game plan when it comes to learning how to do damage from top position.
Yep. If he adds the ground and pound in, he will be an absolute monster. But that's the thing, Wheezy. I think it's a cardio management thing, because he really struggles to get these heavy boys down. And I do think there is a fear of, I'm going to have to do that again. And he doesn't want to get hit in the face. He'd rather sit and hold position, hoping for that sub to materialize, than to risk being on the feet with these big boys. Kuniev it is. We're going for it, Wheezy. I'm on board. Let's do it. And if I hadn't already used the dog of the week, then Julius Walker would be the dog of the week. And if I hadn't done Julius Walker, then Kuniev would be the dog of the week. I think this is an underdog kind of card, you guys. There's a lot of underdogs I like this week. So we'll see. We might be rolling the dice this week in Vegas. Let's go. Next fight, we got Amir Albazi taking on Kyoji Horiguchi. And I just told you guys, we're upgrading Kyoji into the top 5 circle of favorite UFC fighters currently right now. I love this guy, Wheezy. I told you guys about him when he got re-signed by the UFC, and we cashed a big ticket on his UFC debut. 35 years old. It's his second run in the UFC. His first run was all the way back in 2015, and his only loss was to Demetrius Johnson, you guys. He smoked the UFC roster, going 7-1, with his only loss being to the GOAT. He looked amazing in his last fight against Tagir. He could not be stopped. He's got that fastball overhand, right? He's really light on his feet. He bounces all around the cage. Wheezy, I describe him as a combo of like Lyoto Machida and Dom Cruz. Like, if you just kind of blend those two together somehow, that's what you end up with Kyoji Horiguchi. Explosive when he decides to engage, quick, good head movement, good defense, rolls and counters. He cuts angles very well. He intercepts people. He blitzes. I love everything about this guy. I love everything about this guy. And you know what, Micro? You are absolutely correct. Because I am your bantamweight king, and this is a bantamweight fight. I may have been wrong on Patchy Mix, but we've got it right here with Kyoji Horiguchi.
Not bantamweight, dude. It's not bantamweight. It's a flyweight fight.
Damn it, I'm not the flyweight king.
Yeah, you're not the flyweight
king.
We got bantamweight up next. You brought the hat out one. Yeah.
I'm in a groove. And I didn't even think about it. I was like, oh shit, I need to put the crown on. And I grabbed it. You're right. This is flyweight. I'm not the flyweight king, you guys. I'm not the flyweight king. Anyway, we're on a roll here with Kyoji Horiguchi. And his cardio checks out, Wheezy. Like, on top of the skill, the fight IQ, all that, coming back, long layoff, back in the United States, all that, cardio checks out. And then on top of that, no bullshit, he calls out Pantoja, his teammate, his lifelong friend. He's like, fuck it, I want the UFC belt, don't care who has it. And the UFC loves that shit. So if he's going to make that kind of a move, they're going to absolutely give him the opportunity. He's taking on Amir Albazi here in his second fight, 32 years old, coming back off of a really long layoff. He's had a bunch of injuries. He's been beaten up. You know, he had like a back surgery and he came back in 2024. He fought my guy, Brandon Moreno, and he looked rough, man. He looked really rough in that fight coming back against Brandon Moreno. He managed to make it the distance, but he kind of got beaten up. His face was all busted. He's 1-1 in grappling matches since then, and he had a fight scheduled against Tatsuro Taira that he withdrew from. And frankly, Wheezy, that's the kind of fight where that kind of signals to me that the UFC is ready to be done with this kid, right? Like they're setting you up with a kid like Taira, and they're, putting you to the fire after having a bad injury and losing to a guy like Brandon Moreno. I'm not sure he's the same guy, Weezy. This is another person who I feel like the ravages of time and injuries could have ruined him. And his resume is pretty weak in hindsight. You know, his best win is a split decision over Kai Kara France. And if memory serves correctly, Weezy, that night, a lot of people thought that Kai Kara France got robbed. Yeah. I actually cashed a ticket on Amir Albazi. We went to war with our team at Fight Ready that night, and I felt extremely lucky to cash that bet. But then, so you've got the worst Figueiredo brother that he beat in 2022, Zalgas Zumagulov, who I love, but is basically a meme at this point on the regional scene. Malcolm Gordon. Like, these are the people that he's beating, you guys. He doesn't have any legitimate victories, really, that are relevant in 2026. And again, the split against Kai Kara France, like, it was a close fight. I'll give you that. But Kai Kara France is also getting exposed at the top end of this weight class. He got smoked out by the champion. If you're not that guy that beat Kai Kara France, if you're a shell of the guy that beat Kara France, how are you going to beat Kyoji Horiguchi? I don't think he can out-hustle Kyoji Horiguchi wrestling for 15 minutes, Wheezy. And frankly, I think Kyoji might hurt him. So it's Kyoji or nothing for me. And I'm sure I'll have him in a parlay or something.
Yeah, he should win this fight. This is a very, very unforgiving sport. And when your body starts to fail you, it doesn't matter whether you're 25, 35, 45, you're just not going to be able to keep up with the rest of the division. And it's even worse when you're a flyweight or where you're a bantamweight, where like the pace of these fights is crazy and that everybody's well-rounded and nobody really has any weak spots. So, this guy fights Kai Kara France. I thought Kai Kara France won 4 rounds in that fight. Like, I don't think there's much of an argument for Amir winning that fight, but he won it by split decision. And then he gets hurt and he has to take over almost a year and a half off between the Kai Kara France and the Moreno fight. And in the Moreno fight, he looks awful. So he's back from neck surgery, about a 15 or a 16-month layoff. And I remember even like hearing some interviews before the fight where he was probably talking about how he was probably rushing it, but being in the top 5 of the division, like the UFC's not trying to make you, wait around for you for 2 years and then give you a main event, right? So he kind of rushed into it. He got kind of gifted that Kai Kara France split, and then he lost to Brandon Moreno, and we haven't seen him since. That was November of 2024. Here we are in February of 2026. So this guy's fought once in the last 3 years, and that performance, I mean, of course it was against Brandon Moreno, so obviously you're fighting an elite former champion, but this guy doesn't look like he has anything. Like, I don't think he can wrestle anymore because after a serious back injury, have you ever hurt your back?
Many times, sometimes just rolling out of bed.
Okay, yeah. That's how it can happen too sometimes. Like, I've pulled my erector muscle a few times, and one time I sprained it really bad, and I couldn't stand up straight for like 3 weeks. And when your back is messed up, nothing else works. It's not like having a shoulder injury where your legs are fine, you can use your other arm, You know, a knee injury, you're still on one leg, your upper body's fine. If your back is messed up, your arms don't work, your hips don't work, your legs don't work, nothing works. So when you have that kind of an injury and you're showing that you're having a hard time coming back from it, it might just mean that not only are you not ready to fight anymore, but you possibly might not even be able to wrestle anymore. And if Amir Albazi's unable to wrestle, he's kind of just a pocket boxer. You know, and I mean, I just don't really see him winning a pocket boxing match against Horiguchi, who's faster than him, more powerful than him, has way better kicks. And he's just so much more explosive. Like, the thing that really is impressive about Horiguchi is the way that he moves at 35 years of age. The guy just glides around the cage. He's always on his toes. That's exhausting. That's exhausting to fight like that for 3 rounds. And he does it easily. And everything that he throws, he explodes into. Yeah, it's going to be really, unless Amir Albazi kind of like turned back the clock and over this, how long of a layoff? 16-month layoff, got healthier, got better. I don't think he's going to win this fight.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Weezy. You know, funny story about a back injury. My wife's girlfriend, love her to death. I call her number 2 because after my wife, she's next. She, you know, she's the second woman in my life, right? She is my number 2. We're real tight. We're real tight, the 3 of us. And she was dating this guy who was just an absolute douche. The type of guy, the broest of all bros, that would like invite you to come over and work out with him and then make lifting a competition. You know what I mean? Like that kind of a guy where it's like, we can't even just hang out. Like, he's got to find a way he's better than you if he's going to be spending any kind of time with you. Well, I was pushing some pretty decent weight on leg press, and I just overdid it, man. It was one of those days where I decided I was going to go heavy. I was going to go hard, and it was a mistake. I went way too hard, jacked my back up. And we went to we did like a double date kind of thing with them. And he wanted to like run and jump into my arms and have me like hold him up for a picture. And, you know, he was trying to like goof off with me or whatever. But I fucked my back up. So he wants to do this thing. And I'm like, dude, I can't hold you. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, we worked out. He was like, I know you can hold me. You can hold me. I'm like, no, dude, I jacked my back up. I can't hold you right now. And he refused to take no for an answer. So we had to find a spot where he could like hang from something so that he could like take his weight off me to be holding him for the picture, because he refused to not take this picture with me. And Weezy, I kid you not, he was an asshole from that point forward for the rest of their relationship. He looked down on me for the entire rest of the time that they dated because I couldn't lift him. That it was like I had personally insulted him by not being able to lift his body weight. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we went from like being like, I've got a feeling we're on rocking chairs, old and married with our girls. We're going to be boys for the rest of our lives, to now this guy is a fuckwad because he thinks I can't lift him for a photo op. I was like, so yeah, I've got some experience with the back pain, man. And it all came from pushing a little bit too hard on the leg press. So be careful. Even you guys who are young and working out, one day the old will come for you too.
It comes, man. And it's not nice when it comes.
The old cometh. And now I just hurt my back getting out of bed some days. All right, guys. Main event of the evening. We got Mario Bautista taking on Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. And it's time, because this is a bantamweight fight, and I am your bantamweight king. So we will lock and load the crown for this one, Wheezy. I will confess to you guys, however, even though I've got a spectacular record at bantamweight, even though my word is law at bantamweight, Wheezy, I have had a really, really hard time with Mario Bautista. This is a guy who I cashed looking smarter than anybody on planet Earth all the way back in 2021 on Trevin Jones. I made a bet on Trevin 5-star Jones, and I said, you know what? Mario Bautista is ass. The guy is chinny. The guy is gassy, and I smoked him with Trevin Jones. And that may have been one of the most costly bets I've ever won in my life, because I've been trying to fade him ever since. I've lost with Damon Blackshear. I've lost with Ricky Simone. I have lost with Jose Aldo. I've lost with Patchy Mix. I mean, this guy has made me pay just relentlessly since that one victory. Now, I do think part of that is because A, he's evolved, B, he's gotten a new supplement routine. He does not slow down in fights anymore. And Weezy, I'm not so sure he's chinny anymore. He took some massive shots from Jose Aldo. There were a couple times where I actually thought Jose was going to put him down. I did take the Jose Aldo KO prop that night because I thought Jose was going to hurt him enough to the body to open up the head and then put him away. And it just didn't happen. Then they robbed me on the split to add insult to injury. I've begrudgingly gotten respect for Mario Bautista. He's a lot better than I ever gave him credit for. Vinicius Lock Dog, 23-3. Oliveira is 30 years old. He is in his fighting prime. The worry about this guy is every once in a while the chin drops out. Weezy, he's lost 3 fights in his entire career, and all 3 of those are by knockout. Now, he's undefeated in the UFC. It looks like he came here at the right time. He is streaking right now, and they seem to have kind of chucked him into the deep end, and he has swam, baby. Bernardo Sopai, I like that kid. He didn't end up being everything I thought he was going to be, but that was a tough UFC debut, and he got a finish, a comeback win, survived early, flipped the tables, finished him, got him out of there. Like, you couldn't ask for a more impressive win coming back in that one. And then to beat a guy like Ricky Simón in your second fight. Now, there's some questions about whether or not Ricky was fully healthy. I get it. There's a little asterisk maybe next to that one, but he beat Said Nurmagomedov and Kyler Phillips fair and square back-to-back on that one. This kid has announced himself as being here and being real and being legit. He is aggressive. He hits hard. And the biggest thing I think I like about him, Weezy, is his ability to catch a second wind, because it does look like he redlines. It does look like he gets to the point where he is exhausted. He is tired. He is worn down. He's ready to call it quits. And then he'll sit on the stool for just a minute and come out firing again the next round. Like, he doesn't stop. It looks like he's going to gas. I think he's just mentally strong enough to push himself through it, and he keeps on going. And that's the kind of heart that you can't teach, right? As long as he doesn't get banked on the chin and put away, that's the kind of stuff that wins you championships down the road in your lifetime. So, you know what, Weezy? This is one where, again, you guys, I have fully confessed that Mario Bautista has gotten the best of me at times. I think this is dog or pass, Weezy. I think we are once again rolling the dice on an underdog this weekend. I told you guys I like dogs on this card. I think Vinicius Oliveira is a very good dog for this one, because if this fight is close and technical, he can compete with Mario Bautista. If it hits the ground, I really don't think it's going to. I don't expect either of these guys to wrestle. He can compete. I think he hits harder than Mario Bautista does. And if those chin problems are ever going to end up becoming a concern at any point again, I think Mario's got the worst durability. And frankly, Vinicius seems to get stronger, man. When he sniffs blood, when he senses you slowing down even just a little bit, he cranks up even further. And we saw that as evidenced in that UFC debut against Bernardo Sopai, where he just became unstoppable in that third round. He got everything he wanted. I think it's dog or pass, Weezy. I think this is lock dog time. I think Mario Bautista has entered the circle, right? He got the respect. He is a contender at this point, and he has failed to pass that bar, right? Umar Nurmagomedov sent him spiraling back down the ladder, and I think this is Vinicius Oliveira's chance to prove that he's real and legit. Plus 160, lock dog. I think that's the way I'm going.
Yeah, it's a great fight. This is a great main event. This is going to be an all-action fight. I really enjoyed watching the tape on Vinicius Oliveira. I love fighters that fight with his style. He constantly pressures forward. He never takes a backward step. He's always throwing in combination. I think his grappling is quite underrated, actually. And like you said, man, like, he drags you into the swamp, and he doesn't care if he gets tired. It doesn't even matter to him. He's gonna, like, his default is, I'm gonna go forward with my hands down. They're never gonna be up here. They're always gonna be down here. I'm gonna trust my head movement. I'm gonna trust my speed and my reaction time. And everything that I throw is gonna be from an odd angle. And if I catch you, God help you, because the guy's got real power. You know what I really like about him is that he'll throw 3-4 punch combinations, and then he finishes with a kick. He likes to finish with those low kicks. He'll go to the body. He goes to the head. He mixes up his targets beautifully. He never takes his foot off the gas. He drags you into a war. And I think his durability is actually a little bit underappreciated, because he got finished in 2018 by Christian Quinones, finished in 2019 by a guy named Adriano in Future FC. And then he got finished in UAE Warriors in a 5-round fight against Ali Taleb. Ali Taleb hits hard, and they were just absolutely throwing down. One of the greatest regional scene fights I've seen in a very long time. And but Vinicius is somebody that is going to take technical fighters and make them absolutely hate fighting him, because he doesn't give you any space to breathe. He doesn't allow you to stay at distance and point fight with him. He just walks forward with his hands down. It reminds me a little bit of Anderson Silva, actually. Like, not that he's that kind of talented on the feet, but Anderson fought the same way. He never had his hands up. He relied on his head movement. Bobby Green, too. He relied on his head movement and footwork for defense, but everything that they threw was coming from these odd angles, and everything had a chance to kind of knock you out. Vinicius Oliveira broke his rib 1 minute into the Said Nurmagomedov fight and won all 3 rounds of that fight. You know, I think people are saying that this dude's like slowing down in fights, and he does kind of slow down a little bit, and it looks like he's tired, but the volume never goes away. So this being a 5-round fight is very important, because Mario Bautista has a conditioning differential here. The guy has got some of the best conditioning in the entire division, and he's a pressure fighter as well. So I see this just being a car crash. Neither one of these guys is going to want to take a backward step, and I think the early part of the fight is going to come down to which fighter can put their opponent on the back foot, because neither guy wants to be there, and neither guy excels well there. I think it's going to be Oliveira putting Bautista on the back foot. I don't think the guy has very much technical training, but I think he knows that I go forward, I swing from the hip, and I look to kill you. And I think his chin has been holding up really well at this level. So I'm interested to see how this, holds up for Bautista. Does the durability for him hold up early in this fight? So I think pre-flop, the side is Oliveira. And I think after 2 rounds, if Oliveira hasn't badly hurt this dude or badly compromised him, that you're going to see Bautista's pace in rounds 3, 4, and 5 start to actually win that pressure battle and maybe get Vinicius on the back foot. And I think that conditioning differential that does exist here is going to play out huge if this thing gets into the championship rounds. But before that, I think Oliveira is going to be the most dangerous fighter out of the 2.
Okay. All right. You guys, this card is awesome. This is a hardcore's delight. There's a lot of really fun fights on this card. I think there's some very competitive lines. You can argue for both sides. It's pick 'em price tags. We're going to go nuts on this one. I wish you massive amounts of luck. Let's smoke this card. Let's stack some wins. Let's build those pockets back up. We need this one. So I appreciate you for being here, Weezy. Thank you for spending your time, sharing your knowledge, breaking down this card with me, my man. If you have anything to say, shout out. If you have any shows or you want to advertise anything, the floor is yours, my guy.
Yeah, you can come check me out in about an hour and a half, because Brady and I are never late for Stat Diggers. So DFS by the Numbers YouTube channel, Stat Diggers tonight. We're going to put up all the stats on the screen. We're going to talk about these fights again and see if we can find some good bets there. And then you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Weezy. You can find me on Twitter at MMA Weezy. You can find me on Rumble at Uncle Weezy. And then if you want to get access to my stats package, to my subscriber-only video content, which is 4 hours every single week for every card of the year, my tracked bets, my Discord, my fight write-ups, all the betting models and statistics and benchmarks that I have available for every division. Join me on oddshopper.com. Look for Uncle Weezy there, $25 a month for the probability stats and content package. It's going to give you access to a treasure trove of information, which is going to make you help you make better long-term gambling decisions when you have access to more information. So that's the best way to support my work, is to check me out on oddshopper.com. But hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button for your boy Clint. He's here every week grinding it out, giving you guys great content for free. Thank you, Clint, for having me on. Let's stack cashed tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 113.
Let's fucking go, Wheezy. Thank you all very much for being here this evening. We've got over 400 of you live on all platforms. Appreciate you guys being here. Hit the like button. Please subscribe if you're new. We've had a lot of new subscribers roll in here, you guys. This is a great positive place to talk about your favorite sport. We talk about betting as well. We dig in out, but it's a safe place. We have a good time. So if you enjoyed the show, please subscribe. We do this every week with an awesome guest every single time out as well. And just you know what, from the bottom of my heart, you guys, I know I always thank you guys for the love and for the support and things like that, but more so now than ever, because coming off the weekend where my grandmother's funeral was held and I had to face all that emotion and stuff like that. You guys have been great. I got so many DMs. I've had people text me. I've had private messages on Twitter. You guys flooded me with love and comments on, my post on Twitter when I posted the picture of me and my grandma. And, I know you guys had my back, and I know all my guests and my online friends. I know you guys have all been kind to me and stuff like that, but it was a flood. It was an absolute wave, an outpouring of love and care from you guys. And I'll be honest, I was kind of taken aback. I was a little shocked at the amount of love and kindness that I got from you guys. So now more than ever, thank you guys. It's meant the world to me. There's real people who I know in my life who I haven't heard from, but I've gotten heartfelt DMs and messages from you guys. So it's really a special thing we've created here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you all so much for just being here with me, for going on this journey with me. You guys are the best. Love and appreciate you. We'll see you guys soon. We're back on track this week. Props are back. Total Takedowns back. Friday undefeated post-weigh-in show and tinfoil cap is back. So we'll see you guys a little bit later in the week, and we'll see you right here next week on Monday. Kick some ass. Let's make some money. Let's roll.